Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 13th Town Board meeting here at the Townhouse. For those in the room, the exits are to the front of the building and also to the rear of the building. And if you will, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think that's great. So
yes.
okay, first we're going to start with the public hearing. But before that, we have a pretty loaded agenda, and we have several people that are here to present, including NYSEG. We have loaded several items for Nicole. She's logged in remotely. So what I want to do is move all public comment to the end so we can address the business items first, and then relieve those people so they don't have to sit through the entire meeting.
Tony,
So-
can I make an objection to that?
No,
We have a
not
lot of people on Zoom waiting and it's.
correct, but we have Nicole with little kids at home. We have the person from NYSEG. I don't want him to wait, an hour or so before he presents. So, yeah, so we'll have the public comment, but it'll be at the end. Thank you. So we'll start with the public hearing. And this is for the Oakridge plant expansion. And just to set the groundwork here, we have the public hearing. After the public hearing, we're going to adopt a public interest order, which has been revised to reflect the new project cost. We had back in 2021, we had adopted a public interest order and bond resolution. So now because of the change in the project costs, we have to adopt revised documents. So anybody would like to comment on the plant expansion? Oh, sorry. Motion to open the public hearing for the Oakridge plant expansion project.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone here would like to speak about the Oakridge project? How about on Zoom, Janet?
Simone O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you, Simone.
Okay, great. Here are my concerns on the Oakridge expansion project. The only company our town has dealt with is Delaware. For years, many have asked for a second opinion. Your reply at the water meeting, Tony, was that the state doesn't require it. However, you have a fiduciary duty to the residents, so it doesn't matter if the state requires it. You have to act financially responsible. And in my opinion, it's good business practice to get a second opinion. You speak over and over on PFAS. What are we doing with the other bacteria and elements that lurk in this water and the pipes that actually carry it? I've told you I was contacted by the Department of Health when my mother was hospitalized, and I was asked what country she traveled to. You stated you will allow a hookup for the owner/builder of Oakridge, leading to 18 more units, and have stated this will not tax the water at all. Seems like an illogical conclusion. All I asked is to wait on it and at the minimum start addressing the water situation first. You celebrated and patted each other on the back when we were told you were getting the monies to fix the water. And here we are borrowing a huge sum because that money was not enough. And now we have to pay that back. It was determined, had this been done a couple of years ago, it would have cost over $1 million less. I walk the property almost daily, and my mother, who, God willing, will be 86 in less than 2 weeks, has never used her water from her faucet to drink. I see all of the geese and the other animals that reside near the lake where the new units are supposed to be built, and I wonder if we need to get environmentally approved everywhere in this town except for Oakridge. I'm happy you're trying to move forward. As Dan would tell you, he's been on the town board for 16 years and hasn't done anything to address it. I'm happy mixed with concern. I do hope that this is the right path, and the lack of a second opinion doesn't mean the proper research hasn't been done in all the years you had to get one, and that addressing PFAS doesn't leave the residents with other bacterial and chemical worries, accomplishing nothing. I don't have a lot of confidence in you and this board when it comes to Oakridge. I'm hoping you can all prove me wrong and the people of Oakridge stop suffering. And my mother, after 22 years living here, can turn her faucet on and drink her water without fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Anyone else have any comments for the Oakridge public hearing? That's it, Tony.
Okay, thank you. All right, so communications, I just have a, oh, yeah, to close, yeah. So I motion to close the public hearing on the Oakridge plant expansion project. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so for communications, I have a couple of things. So speaking of drinking water and water quality, we actually applied for, it's called the Drinking Water Source Protection Program. And we were accepted into that program. So we received a letter. This is from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Congratulations, your community has been selected to work with a technical assistance provider to aid in the development and implementation of a drinking water source protection program. As you actually, let me just fast forward here. It's a long letter, but basically, the overview of this program is that this is a program for New York State which will assist municipalities with proactively protecting their drinking water sources. The goal of the program is to help municipalities develop a DWSP2, which is the Drinking Water Source Protection Program plan for their sources of drinking water and launch into implementation. Technical assistance providers are available to help municipalities through every step of the plan development process and initial implementation at no cost to the municipality for the technical assistance provider services. So just to give you an idea, we are, in terms of the communities that have been selected, in Westchester, it's Lewisboro, Mount Kisco Village, and Somers. So 3 communities are joining a couple of others that were already in the program.
We're going to adopt a public interest order.
I'm sorry?
We didn't
Who's that?
adopt the public interest order
Oh.
after closing the hearing.
So do we that's actually in the new business? Do we do that now, Greg, or should we?
I'm sorry, I was, if you're going to adopt the public interest order and then the project cost resolution, you just need to do that in advance of awarding the bid.
Oh, okay. So as part of closing that public hearing, that would be the next.
You're free to do it at any point after the public hearing is closed, okay, to adopt the PIO and then adopt the project cost resolution.
Got
Okay,
it.
and that precedes awarding the bid. I apologize.
Okay, so no problem. Thank you.
And I didn't mean to interrupt what you're saying. I just.
Yeah, so I'll just wrap up what I'm doing, what I was in the middle of. So we're joining Ossining and Peekskill in that program. So we'll see what comes out of it, and hopefully we'll get additional state resources that we can use to help us with keeping our drinking water safe.
It's consultation. They're going.
It's consultation, basically. Yeah,
Survey
yeah.
our overall situation.
Right.
And give some guidance. Okay.
right. So I will hopefully.
So this would
find out more.
apply to Oakridge.
Any correct. And if we can expand it beyond that, I'm not sure if it's only for municipal water supplies, but that's what I'm gonna. find out. But it could apply
But your
to.
idea when you applied was to use these services, particularly with Oakridge in mind.
No, this actually came after the fact. This I just found out about in December. It
Okay,
was when I think it was December, January even.
well,
when we
let me
first got-
rephrase, when you first inquired
I didn't-
regarding this project,
mhm.
you had Oakridge in mind, not the grant, I misspoke. So you had Oakridge in mind when this came up?
I had Oakridge and any other, potentially for any other drinking water sources in the, if it cannot be applied to other drinking water sources in the town, yeah.
Okay.
Which, yeah, but I'll find out more about that. So that's the only thing I have to communications. Yes, all right, so let's go back to, so we closed the public hearing. Oh, that's yeah, okay, fine. We could do that now.
Do you wanna
That's
do-
communications?
We're still doing
Well, let's-
communications, or
yeah.
do you want to go back and
I'll tell you
finish
what, let's
the
go
water?
back and do the Oakridge thing. So we have, okay, let me just see here. This is it.
Just give Janet a heads up where we're going next.
Public interest order.
Public interest order for the Oakridge Water District project. So we have, from our bond council. Let's see, just make sure I get the wording correct. Okay, right, so we have a public interest order. So I guess so basically this is a, it's, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but we had adopted in October of 2021, a public interest order for the project, which basically states that that this project is of interest to the public, and specifically in this case, the residents of Oakridge. And then the revised project costs were reflected in this public interest order. And so what I'll do is I'll motion that we apply the public interest order to reflect the revised estimated maximum cost of $3,902,933.
What's from,
So are we amending the old one, or are we rescinding the one that we already voted on and voting on a new one?
I don't think we need to rescind, but correct me if I'm wrong. Greg, this is from bond counsel from UN.
Yeah, you're just adopting a new one that's superseding the prior PIO
There is a whereas statement here that
within it, yes.
prior PIO.
Okay,
Greg, public interest order, how broad is that? Can you give me a 10-second definition?
Yeah, it's a determination that the initiative that you're taking has been put to the public for comment, and it is within the public interest to proceed with the project, meaning it has a legitimate public purpose. And then the next thing is the cost, is the step 2 of it. But the initial determination as to whether or not the project is within the public interest, and that's all this really is for.
And specific project, I do have Robert Flores from Delaware Engineering, who has been working with us through the process. So if there are any questions specific to the project, questions from the board, we can ask Robert.
Preferable to what?
To the project.
What?
Yeah, I mean,
Any questions you may have, they're the ones who designed the system.
well,
the
I mean,
ones
that's the order is primarily issued because costs went up. So I guess if there's anything to ask about, we could get a quick overview of which elements of the cost rose, and what was the driver behind them.
From the 900 and change differential, whatever.
yeah.
Right.
If
Can we ask him that?
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Can you let Robert in if he isn't already, chat?
Okay, yeah, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. Hi, Robert.
Hi. So, yes, the project costs did go up. I think as we have mentioned previously, the estimates were based on a very recent project that we had completed and bid and construction.
So people listening. So Robert, could you just introduce yourself and your role with the
Sure. So this is Robert Flores with Delaware Engineering. I'm the project manager on the project for Delaware. Engineer of record is another way to think of me of. So when we applied for the initial project and then the initial bond resolution that the town took up, that was based on cost of a similar project, with some escalation then included in there. Since that time, which is approximately 2 years, everything has gone up in cost. Some of the construction costs, just in general, concrete, steel, have gone up dramatically. And some of the specific elements, such as pumps and tanks and piping, have gone, up even more. So obviously, this project is mostly large equipment, specific, that has a unique elements. So that's why, it was publicly bid. I guess that's the other thing that it should be noted, that it was competitively publicly bid. You received several bids for the 3 prime contracts. So that even though the prices are, higher than they were estimated 2 years ago, that the final cost are true costs based on, competitive bids.
And I can add to that in terms of the competitive bids for there were 3 contracts. One of them was the general contractor. We had 6 bids, which range from 2.88 million to 4.3 million. That's just on the GC side, the general contractor side. For the electrical, we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 5 bids. And then for the
HVAC, there was 4.
HVAC, we had 4 bids. And one of them withdrew.
So, just at some point before we vote, can we just recap our total cost and the funding sources just before the vote and, how that's
Sure.
being allocated?
Sure. So we have for the, now this
Doesn't have to be now, Robert speaking.
Oh.
Just to recap it before we go in, that's all, then the vote, that's all, at the end.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure,
Just
yeah,
any-
yeah.
I don't want to interrupt Robert's president.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. So is there specific question that I missed there, or?
No, I think
No.
that was it. but,
Okay.
Another just blue sky question. Is there any chance that these materials were, at hitting a peak and they're going to be crashing back down again? Or are we seeing?
So we've seen a plateau in public projects that are, going out to bid, but we haven't seen dips. So, we saw prices go up 20-30% year over year, and that slowed down, but nothing's gone down.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to address one of the questions that was, or statements that was made in terms of New York State requiring, or a statement that I made that it's required that we use Delaware engineering. That was not a requirement of this project. The requirement of this project was the carbon filtration is the only approved, and maybe Robert, you can talk to that in terms of the options that are available for PFAS treatment.
Sure. So carbon, which is what's proposed for Oakridge, is the best available technology. So that's the tried and true. We know it works. It's been used many locations in the state and in the country. There's other technology that's developing, because obviously this is a big issue. There's an ion exchange, which is a special kind of media that can also absorb PFAS. There's reverse osmosis, which is basically a very small filter that could remove PFAS, but those have some negatives to them, and there's not 100% chance that they'll work. So that's why the GAC is the best available technology. And I guess the design was submitted to the Department of Health, Westchester County Health Department, and their engineers reviewed it. They spent more than a year, looking over every single detail. Yeah. So I guess to give you some assurance that other engineers have looked at design and gave it their blessing.
Robert, have you been on any projects with Delaware Engineering where you've executed on a carbon filtration system for PFAS remediation?
Yes. So this is the third full-scale municipal carbon system that I've been involved in. There's other small ones.
If I recall correctly, Robert, you were involved, was it Hoosick Falls in New York?
So Hoosick Falls was the first one, and that was started up in 2016. And to my knowledge, it was the first municipal scale GAC filter in New York State.
And that was, there was a lot of press around that project and what was going on there in terms of the contamination.
That's right. Yeah, if you there's a lot of stuff on Google if you're so inclined to find it. But that project was done before the regulations existed, before we were all convinced that GAC was going to work. So that had a special trial, and after the trial, then we built the full scale, and it all got built. And
You said GAC, what was that?
granular activated carbon. So we
Okay.
keep saying the carbon filter, but
Try and spell out the initials.
acronyms. Yeah,
You got people in the public who are listening to this and trying to have them understand what we're doing.
sure. So when we say carbon, what we mean is granularly activated carbon, and that's specially made carbon that absorbs the PFAS, which is another acronym, chemicals. So anyway, yes. So the one in Hoosick Falls has been in operation since 2016, and it's been non-detect going out to the village ever since then.
Does that mean it's delivered on zero PFAS? Is that what that means?
That's right.
Okay.
And also with the federal government, they're looking at changing their regulations on PFAS and dropping it to an even lower level than New York State. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but these other systems wouldn't be able to, at this point in time, they're not approved. Well, they're not approved by New York State. And they probably, from what I've read and understand, they would not get to non-detect with PFAS.
Yes, well, there's like, for example, reverse osmosis, which is a very small microfiltration system. It has in practice, for every gallon you treat, somewhere around 5 gallons is wasted. And so that 5 gallons has to go somewhere. You don't have that somewhere to send it to. So that's while the technology in the lab works, it doesn't work in Oakridge. Ion exchange is very specific media that's developed to absorb a very unique chemical. So right now, PFOA and PFOS are the two of, there's literally thousands of PFAS chemicals, but PFOA and PFOS are the two that are regulated. In the very near future, like in the next 12 months, there'll be 6 PFAS chemicals that'll be regulated. And to Tony's point, the regulations have dropped from no regulation to 200 parts per trillion to 70 parts per trillion to 10 parts per trillion, which is the current limit. And soon it'll be 4 parts per trillion. And there'll be 6 chemicals instead of 2. So, anyway, so the ion exchange would be even more of a mystery if it was used.
Right. So with the carbon, we'll be in a good position to, in case these other non-regulated chemicals are regulated, the 2,000 or so chemicals, carbon will take care of those.
Right. So carbon is still our best available technology. It still absorbs all forms of PFAS and TOCs. So that's still the tried and true technology.
Robert, what's the projected life expectancy of this type of carbon filtration system to keep PFAS at 0? So
that's one of the things that's done earlier in the design, and a specific volume of water from Oakridge. So not textbook, but an actual water from Oakridge was sent to the lab and tested with the media that's going to be installed, and the results came back, whether it be 18 months plus for the first change out. The test is set up to only go up to 18 months. So whether it's 20 months or 36 months, they still report back 18 plus. So the system is set up with 2 vessels, just a lead and a lag. So sometime around 18 plus months, you'll need to potentially change the carbon in the first vessel. So one at a time, not both at once.
And what's the projected cost to change out the carbon in the projected 18 months?
So that'll obviously change over time, but it's a very expensive thing. For changing one out could be $80,000. It'll be something that you'll when the time's right, you'll bid, and because it is such a significant cost.
So that raises a question in the financing and the financials, how are we allocating and projecting for the anticipated maintenance costs going forward?
Well, that's something that we have to, when I did the presentation for Oakridge, we discussed that it's gonna be implemented. It's gonna be part of the district costs. So we have to factor that into the fees. Now, Robert, in terms of that carbon change out, I mean, I heard that it could be 18 months, but it all depends on the levels of PFAS over time, correct? So it could actually be even longer than that.
Yes, yeah, not to, that you hate to paint too good a picture, but right, it could be 3 years. It could be.
Right.
And the waste carbon goes to some specialty contractor, I assume, and
Yeah, basically the suppliers of the carbon are the disposal. So they take it away and put it in.
okay. That's part of that cost then?
That's right.
Oh, that's good.
I just for clarification for the people who are listening. This project is solely directed at the removal of PFOAs and PFOS from the drinking water, correct?
Well, that is the primary purpose, but you'll get additional benefits with carbon filtration.
Okay, and could you give us an idea of what those additional benefits are?
Right, so carbon filtration removes organic matter from the water. So that affects your taste and odor of water. So, things that we may not be sampling for that might exist. Organics that are just naturally occurring would be also absorbed in the carbon filters.
And doesn't that lower the incidence of the formation of, and I can't remember the
THMs.
THMs, that's it.
Trihalomethane.
Because of the reactions with the halides and stuff.
That's right. So the organics in the water in reaction with the chlorine is what generates the trihalomethanes, which is the THMs.
Right. So that's a nice benefit.
That's right.
And there are some other benefits as well. Just to stay on that topic with enhancements to or upgrades of pumps, and we're moving equipment into the new building to provide more space in the existing building, which is very cramped, overcrowded with equipment. So that's another, and redundant pumps.
Redundancy.
Yeah, there'll be some redundancy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And
One of the organic elements removed, would that include iron from the water as well, Robert?
So the existing plant already has filters that are intended for the removal of iron and manganese. So the water would go through those first, the mixed media and green sand filters, and then it enters the carbon filters.
Okay.
All right, just one more question, only because I know that this question has been raised by one or more of our residents. What, if any, filtration processes does the plant engage in or will engage in that may or may not be able to remove bacteria, if any?
So the filters filter large particles, right? Not bacteria. Bacteria is then destroyed with the chlorine addition, and then of course contact time before it hits to public use.
Thank you.
Right, so there is a disinfection process which the health department tests for that, correct, Robert?
That's right.
On a regular basis.
Would it be possible to have, a finite time if anybody wants to call in with a question of the engineer? Just anybody at Oakridge?
You mean like tonight or?
Yeah, just like 10 minutes if anybody has any questions. The gentleman's here. We already had the
Okay.
public hearing, so if anybody has a question that's on their mind with the engineer,
I'm okay with that, sure.
Yeah.
Does that mean we have to reopen the public hearing?
No, not necessarily for that, but just if anybody has questions of the engineer, they should be able to ask him. Maybe we said, 10 minutes or so, anybody has a question, they could ask.
About 5 minutes.
Okay, sure.
There's a couple people that have questions.
Okay.
Simone, I'm asking you to unmute.
Tony, I said when I asked you at the water meeting, why not get a second opinion? And you said the state does not require it. That was my exact comment. I don't know what you quoted me as saying. So I just want to clarify that. Secondly, I don't understand how you give notice of a public hearing. I speak, I'm the only one that speaks, you close it immediately, and then you get someone who, the only person you've been working with, to come and speak and raise other issues that require questions to be asked. How is that giving proper notice for a hearing when the hearing is closed and the information comes after? So I have a huge issue with that. As far as the bacteria and other chemical elements that may or may not be in the water, I am telling you that people have gotten sick. I have pictures of the disgusting water. Tony, I've spoken to you, and you've literally said, and it's been taped, that sometimes water is discolored, but it's still okay to drink. It's disgusting. It's gross. People don't want to drink it. My mother's been to the hospital twice. I'm not making this up. I have better things to do with my time. I have a practice. I have kids. I have a life. I've been fighting for 4 years. Do you think it's to hear myself speak? So you have this one guy that you're putting everything into, and asking for a second opinion doesn't mean that he's not going to agree with this man. Why wouldn't you have done that? That's what leaves me pause to continue. I want to know if there's something else in this water, if it's going to be filtered out. I listened to the water meeting, and there was a man that spoke that said we're still going to have issues. So I'd like to know what issues we're still going to have. And this Mr. Flores, I think his name is, very nice guy, but he agreed that yes, you can continue to have different issues. I don't know what those issues are. That is my issue, that I think that there's a lot more to this than there isn't. Then you announced that you applied for some money that you're going to get for water, but not possibly for Oakridge, but for whatever. But you're going to borrow $100,000 and put it on the backs of Oakridge residents to pay back when you're getting money for water. Why not use that money to defray the $100,000 more that you need? That's my issue. And I'm sorry if I'm yelling, but I'm sick and I'm trying to get my point across. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Simone.
If the board's okay with it, I'd like to address a couple of those points.
Well, why don't you let
Or-
the rest of the people speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Martha Goodman, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, I have a couple questions about the PFAS presentation. To clarify, non-detect does not mean there is zero PFAS in the water. It means that as far as the current tests can detect, there is not detect. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Also, just had a question about, it sounds like I've tested for PFAS in my own water, and I've installed a GAC system at my home. Here I have 2 tanks, and you're supposed to test between the tanks to see if there's leaching from the first tank into the second tank. And that's how you know when to rebed the tanks, and you rebed them both. So and I was counseled the testing should be done in 6 months, because they really don't know how long the carbon will last in these tanks. So I may have misheard, but it sounded like that they were projecting to need to change the carbon only in 1 tank at a time in 18 months. But I would ask, is there testing going to be done? And I would think that you would do the testing, and then you would respond to what the test tells you. If there's no need to rebed, you don't rebed. If there's need to rebed sooner, you rebed. Otherwise, there's no point in doing any of this. Let me see, sorry. The other benefit of the GAC system is radon in the water. And in New York State, we're not required to test for radon in the water, but in Connecticut, they are. And my radon was extremely high. So that is a benefit. But also, if you have radon in the water, you need to rebed those tanks more often. So in my own case, I have to rebed every year, regardless of what the PFAS situation is. So I don't have to test for PFAS. So has radon testing been done in that water? Because that would change the projection on how often you have to rebed those tanks. And that's it. Also, when you talk about removing the organics from the water, it removes not only quote unquote bad organics, it removes the good organics too. So that's sometimes I think that's an issue maybe with taste and stuff, although I have noticed no difference. That's it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Martha. Robert, can you address some of those points?
Do we have?
Are there any more comments?
There are, how do you want to handle this, Tony?
Is Robert gonna remember all of this? I'm
Yeah.
sure we have more of a one-on-one. It's up to the board.
I think we should hear all the comments.
Okay.
I think Robert's a professional.
Okay,
He's probably taking.
Okay,
notes.
Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak in South Salem, New York. I don't really understand how you're entertaining a developer who wants to put 18 more units on a system that's not working correctly. I mean, how do you sell that? How do you move your family into that? How do you reap the benefits of your investment? And what's going on with the broken pipe and all the sludge that was in the pipe and the tank? That's freaking disgusting. I mean, I wouldn't feed that to my worst enemy. So I don't know how you think that's okay. And what is the source of that? Is it ever flushed? Is it ever tested? What's going on with that? Thank you.
anybody else, Janet?
All right, thank you, Carol. PJ, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, and what is,
This is Patty Jean Jackie from Oakridge. I just wanted to address a few things that were said earlier. My experience with our town supervisor is that he has been very committed to this project since he was a councilman on the board. He was the first person over all the years that I've lived here who ever really did take a consistent interest. He worked very hard with Erica Agro of Vistance of Safe Water and with Robin Gersten, our previous president of Oakridge. So I just wanted to explain that my experience was quite different. He actually even came to my home a year or so ago and was here the day that my plumber changed out the filtration system, which I was forced to buy because I had had clear water for many years. And then a few months after the initiation of construction for Laurel Ridge Townhomes, I started to get the discolored water. I brought this up at many a meeting in the past. But now that I have the filtration system, it's much better. And when the supervisor was here, he was explaining some of the modifications that had already been put in place. So it was improving the coloration, at least, of my water. I can't speak to, the PFOS, PFAS, but I did volunteer also. Our superintendent came around a year or so ago and did lead testing of our water, and fortunately there was none coming out of my pipes. So that's just number one. Number two. Number three is I wondered what the cost of that change of carbon filter is every 18 months. The gentleman from Delaware Engineering, can you give a range of what that cost might be? Hello?
yeah, and he will get to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think that's about it. And thank you, board, for being there tonight in this weather and for posing the questions to Delaware Engineering that you have thus far. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Patty. Stephanie, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, this is Stephanie DeFilippis in Oakridge. I had a question, kind of tailgating on the second opinion. I'm just wondering if reverse osmosis was looked into enough. My understanding, which is very limited, but it is that the byproducts of the reverse osmosis are harmless and can just be put out into the environment. So I'm wondering if that is an option that maybe is possibly going to take a little longer to get a bid on, but maybe that would be a second opinion, and just to see if overall that might be a better option, cost less in the long run, not have to spend $80,000 to change carbon filters. I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up as why that hasn't been looked into more. If I'm not mistaken, though byproducts are harmless for the environment, it seems like a good option to at least look into. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
And that's it, Tony.
Okay. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Robert if you can address some of the or all of those questions, Robert, that came up, concerns.
Sure. Okay, yep. So there was a question about whether we tested for radon, and we didn't specifically test for radon. But radionuclides have been tested at Oakridge in the past. However, like I said, when we did the testing for the carbon, we took a sample of Oakridge water and we sent it to the lab. So it's specific to all the, you know, the obviously the PFAS, but all the other stuff that's in the Oakridge water. You know, it's how we selected the carbon and what kind and how much and all that kind of stuff. There was a question about the testing specific to when the carbon needs to be changed out. So there's a lot of testing, you know, that's an understatement that has to happen. So you have two large carbon filters, 8-foot diameter, 16 feet tall, and each filter has 4 sampling ports. And the normal operation is that they run them in series, right? So all the water passes through one, and then it passes through the second, and then it goes out to the water supply. So on filter 1, the lead vessel, we sample the portals, and when PFAS is detected on the first one, you know, well, on day 1, PFAS will not be detected on any of them. And then you sample at a frequency that will agree to with the Department of Health will tell you how much you have to sample. And then you can decide whether you want to sample more frequently than that or not. So you sample till it's detected in the first portal, and then you sample till it's detected in the second portal. And then when you get to the third, you'll have an idea whether you're in the 18-month range or 3-year range. And you plan for media change out. So that's the whole point of having multiple sampling portals. So you can have several months to plan it out. So then the second vessel, as the way the system is set up, the second vessel will never see water that has any PFAS in it, because you'll change it out before it does. That's the operating parameters to that. There was a comment about a broken pipe and sludge, which I'm not in the loop on that, so I can't comment. Similar with the dischlorinated water. I don't know if those are old issues or new issues, but I'm not really involved with the day-to-day operations. The cost, I think we talked about that a little while ago. You know, if you bid it out today, it could be $80,000 to change out the carbon for one vessel. RO, I guess that's actually does the opposite of what the speaker mentioned. So reverse osmosis is filtration. So what it has, very small membrane, small enough that it can capture the particles of PFAS. So the discharge of RO is very concentrated PFAS. And so you would concentrate it and then discharge it to the stream. So putting it back into the environment where carbon absorbs it, takes it out of the environment. So it's very different than what the last speaker said.
Just for clarification, I think one of Martha Goodman's questions was whether or not when we are testing the filters on a regular basis, whether radon will be one of the things that is going to be tested for. And I think her inquiry was because if radon is in fact in the water, and I'm not saying that it is, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that it is, but that if it is, that the filters need to be changed more frequently. So I guess I don't know if that's a regular thing that we do now or will be done in the future with this system.
So with the way that the New York State regulates the sampling that's required is when a brand new water supply is starting from scratch, there's a table we refer to as Part 5, and it's got hundreds of parameters that have to be sampled for. And then if you have hits of any of those, then those are required to be sampled for as time goes by. And then if years go by and you don't detect something, then they drop it off your required sampling list. So obviously Oakridge has been in operation for a long time. It's been a while since I looked at the list, but the operators of the plant have the list that the Westchester County Health Department gives them that's required for sampling of the raw water. I'm pretty sure that radon is not on there because it doesn't ring any bells. But if the board wants to test for radon, I'm sure that could be done.
Thank you.
And Robert, just in terms of the reverse osmosis, that's not a system that's accepted by the New York State Health Department, correct?
So the only way that it's been accepted has been for small systems. For example, just the sink on your house, right? As opposed to the entire house. In a large scale, it's impractical. For like I said, that the reverse osmosis would concentrate because the water that's being filtered out is concentrating in PFAS. So it's concentrated to a point where you can't discharge it to the stream. And if you discharge it to your sewer, you're just causing problems to your wastewater plant. So a lot of the RO systems would then have to run the reject water of the RO through a GAC filter before it gets discharged to the stream. So you end up having both, which makes it impractical.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of the testing and approval that took place for this project, we started in May of 21, which was when the design and construction plans were submitted to both the county and the state health departments. And then the lab testing along the way. It did take about 2 years and 3 months to complete all that work with the health department. Okay, so any other questions from the board for Robert?
No,
No,
No, okay.
just thank you for your information.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert.
So we have a motion on the public interest order.
Somebody needs to make the motion.
Now, I guess now we're circling back to, you're just gonna give the breakdown of the total funding and the parts that
Oh.
the grants and everything, just to
Yeah.
synthesize that, so.
So we have.
Which will also summarize the public interest order we're voting on.
So we have, so it's 3.9 million is the PFAS. There is a component of this project that we are actually utilizing some grant money that's left over from the trihalomethanes project from 2021, which the state allowed us to use for some of the work that we're doing with this project. So So for the PFAS specific project, which is 3.9 million, we have from the New York City FC 1.16 million. To be exact, 1,163,700. And this was all distributed to the board, so it shouldn't be the first time you're seeing this.
Well, no, just so the public can hear what
Yeah,
3.9
and I also-
million is going for.
Correct, and I shared this also with the Oakridge meeting that I had, but I'll repeat it here. So from the EPA, we have 1.8 million. That's a grand total of $2,963,700 in grant money. Now, there's a statement made that we're not putting all water grant money into this project. This is the only grant money that we have access to right now, and it's all going into Oakridge. And it's specific for Oakridge. The applications were made specific for Oakridge. So that leaves a loan of about 939,233. In 2021, the bond resolution that we passed was for the project amount at that time. So we already had, the board at that time agreed to borrow up to $1.9 million. But now, knowing that we have these grants that came in, we don't need to borrow that much. We're going to borrow 939,000. Now, we also have, there is a class action suit, which again, I shared with everybody. I shared it at the Oakridge meeting as well. There's a class action suit on related to PFAS against 3M and DuPont, who are the manufacturers of PFAS compounds. And, so there are some funds that we're expecting to receive. Right now, the good faith estimate that we received from the law firm working the class action is that we would get about $270,000.
Oh, and that's new information. We didn't know what the number was going to be.
Yes, we did. I did present that in the prior board meeting. And I presented at the Oakridge meeting as well. Now, we're looking to potentially get more. In fact, Kerry's helping me with we have access to a portal where we provide information. So the law firm is asking for some additional information, including flow rates, the cost of the project. So we're submitting all that. In fact, we're looking to complete that this week. And that will potentially help with getting a larger settlement.
Reduces the 939. So the 270.
Correct. So it'll be money that'll be funneled back into Oakridge.
Right, so as the numbers right now, so we have 939, which had to come up with, and 270 and potentially more might come from the class action settlement.
Right,
which would reduce the amount to borrow. Now we're in the 670 range.
Right.
Will it actually reduce it, or is it just gonna go into the pool so it essentially pays it back? Just curious. I mean,
It goes back into the pool to pay it back.
right,
Right.
because you're
And
gonna have
then-
to borrow to get this thing
Mhm.
done.
Correct. So, yeah, so we still, and that's part of the, going forward.
The
we have
effect is basically the same, but
Right.
Yeah.
But the way to look at this as well is, there are additional enhancements that are being made to that water plant, right? That if it wasn't for this project, we probably wouldn't be doing right away, or we would have, but we'd have to pay for it. So we have quite a bit of funding that's coming in. It's over 70% of the project cost is on grant money, which is pretty good, based on
the redundancy ought to help with any of those sort of inadvertent shutdowns, which in turn lead to stir up some of the sediment in the pipes and things.
potentially
like that.
correct. Yeah.
So you're integrating water system infrastructure improvements aside from the PFAS remediation.
Correct. Right. And that was part of the engineering design, because we figured let's take advantage of the fact that we have to design this extension to the building. What else can we do in there besides just putting in these GAC containers? So we're moving in these new pump systems. I forget what they're called, but they're going to go in there. There's also going to be, we're improving, which is a health department requirement. We were on their watch list, if you will, on the chemical side, because we didn't have proper chemical storage. Now we will. So there'll be proper chemical storage. There'll be improvements made to the chemical injection systems as well. So there's a lot of
that's gonna help with that. Oh my God, my water's purple problem.
Well, that was a problem with, a bad meter, that meter that went bad, but yes, there's gonna be some additional safeguards that we're putting in. There's gonna be an upgrade to the SCADA system, which is the control system that controls, the dosage of chemicals.
Good.
So there's a lot of good things that'll come out of this project, and looking back, when the town took over the plant, I think it was about $600,000 that was invested on the water side. So this is the next major investment. On the sewer side, the town, there was a $6 million bond that was taken out without any grants. And folks are still paying for that today. So this is, and again, like Robert said, the carbon does wonders for water. It improves the clarity of the taste. And the, what was it, clarity, taste, and odor. So that's some of the other effects of using the carbon system. If there's anything.
Now we move.
For the shopless.
Yeah, so
resolution.
we have the bond resolution and the public interest order. So I will motion that we adopt the public interest order.
We have to bring Robert back in. Do we have a projected timetable to start work?
The schedule is, and Robert could chime in, but the schedule, Robert, that I would discuss with Anthony, there's several people working on the project, so it's not only Robert, but there's other.
You should answer the question, just
yeah,
get understanding of projected timetable.
So it's 1 year. It's May of 24 to May of 25 is the projection. Yeah.
So in the spring, we're gonna start.
Correct. Now that's all dependent, now we have to go back to the contractors and put a schedule in place with them. Right, so hopefully we can stick to that. So I would like to motion that we adopt the public interest order for the Oakridge plant expansion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Roll call then.
Roll call it. Okay.
Thanks, if you would.
Discussion.
Okay.
Just I just want to say that I think that we should have reopened the public hearing to allow all of what just happened to be part of that hearing for the record. I think that would have been, there was a lot of information and a lot more people speaking. So
I'm including it in the minutes.
okay.
Yes.
It's just, I thought it was important. I know,
Right.
but as part of a public hearing, I think all of that was important to include in the hearing itself. Be that as it may, that was my only discussion point.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet, for taking those minutes.
Okay, roll call. Oh, yes, any more discussion?
Any more discussion?
Are you good? Okay,
Okay, roll call. Dan,
Aye.
Andrea,
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Mary,
Mary Shaw, aye.
and Tony is an aye as well. And then we have the bond resolution, which again, the only change to the bond resolution from the one that we had adopted in 2021 was the fact that we have revised project costs. And I think the public hearing is reflected in there as well, the actual date. The public hearing date is reflected in the public interest order. So, so again, the bond resolution updates the project cost. It still reflects the prior bond resolution of October 12, 2021, which authorized the issuance of $1,939,500 of bonds by the town of Lewisboro. $1,939,500 up to.
So it's still carrying the same maximum to.
Correct.
We don't.
We don't need it. Correct.
Okay, so the understanding, even though there's a maximum 1.9, where we're
We're
at
not
now
far
is
away.
in the 6 range and hopefully better than that.
Right.
Yes.
Well, for the initial borrowing, it'll be the
939.
Then we get back to 270 plus, hopefully,
Right.
okay.
plus and hopefully even more.
We have to lay it out, got it.
And then
Um,
we'll get reimbursed.
Okay, so I motion that we adopt the bond resolution.
Can you say with the maximum cost of 3,902,933?
Yes, with a maximum project cost of $3,902,933.
Do we need to have anything else in there, Greg?
You can offer it as also as pre-filed with the town clerk, because the town clerk had a copy, I believe. But that covers the particulars of the borrowing and the project costs.
Okay, as pre-filed with the town clerk.
Good. And roll call. Do it, please.
Who did the
Oh.
second?
Dan.
Dan did the second.
Oh. So we're doing roll call.
Yes.
Oh, that was a second, sorry. Confused, yeah. All right, roll call now. Rich. Mary,
Mary Shaw, I.
Dan.
Aye.
Andrea,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well.
Thank you.
Is there
Okay.
anything else that needs to be done with that?
I think that's it, right, Greg? Nothing else to be done in terms of,
No, I think you've covered the PIO and the borrowing. So you can move on to that portion of the agenda. When you get to it, you'll be authorized to award the bid or the
Okay.
bids. Okay?
okay, very good. I would say let's jump to that rather than dive into the NYSEG presentation.
Were you gonna do one more communication?
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead, yeah, let's do that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an email received by the town board from resident Carol Cernak earlier today. To the town board, please read this into commenting and would hope that many of you will side on this accomplishment. He has done an amazing job, I'm assuming, and this is regarding John Winter, our highway supervisor. I just want to tell you all, I just want to tell you all to know that John Winter, our new elected highway supervisor, under his own due diligence to the town of Lewisboro Highway Superintendent, accomplished something which his management style and laid back due diligence that has served the town of Lewisboro the benefit of staying in-house. He used the town-owned equipment, manpower, borrowed a truck from Somers. John removed the huge pile of logs, trunks, wood chips, and some dirt without having to hire so-called degenerate Hickory Homes. John Winter stopped a potential multi-tens of thousands of dollars charge to the town of Lewisboro, brought forward recently by our previous Rippinger. Most importantly, there is no need to lease the property to a third-party public movable temporary timber operation facility vendor who has no interest in the town except a buy-off deal and pocketing the monies, and potential criminal vendor. Not to say John won't need additional assistance based on trees falling and hurricanes, but cannot say how grateful I am that this property has been cleaned up. You can actually see the Echo Farm field with horses grazing and people riding their horses. I can see Cheryl Schwarz's beautiful house at her 10-acre land plot. Looking out at the main barn renovation here at Farview, since the cleanup, you can see an operation in progress. Thank you, John. You are a good man, and thank you for your leadership since closing the door of the old world. Never thought I would see this day. You are a talented young highway supervisor with a crew that apparently respects you, and look forward to working with you in the next couple of years and for your second term that I will support. Thank you and your crew also. Excellent work. These are good days based on new ideas and thinking out of the box.
Thank you, Carol, for that note.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John, it's been doing a great job. Okay, so we'll jump to approving the recommendation to award bids for the Oakridge plant expansion project. So we have received the bid recommendation from Delaware Engineering for the three contractors that were the lowest. And
Are we approving the bid and authorizing the supervisor to sign it?
Yes, there is something I have to sign,
Right.
which,
So,
yeah, it's basically the award, the bid award letter to each of the contractors. Here it is. It's a notice of award for each of the three contractors.
okay,
One of them is to Acorn Electrical Contractors for $120,000 plus $30,000 for the other project, which is being paid for by the other grant, contingency allowance of $50,000, totaling $200,000. So it's $200,000. That was their bid. And then the second one was for the
so summarized here, right?
Mhm.
And the
oh, yeah,
January
you're
5
right. So it's in the-
January 5, 2024 letter from Delaware.
correct. Yeah, I was actually reading the notice of award. So yeah, but it's summarized there, right?
So-
Go
Can I
ahead.
just interject? I apologize. So if you're going to make the award, I would make the award just reciting that these are the three low responsible bidders meeting specification for the job. And your bid is, it's subject to review of performance and payment labor materials bonds and insurance prior to a notice to proceed. So you'll give the notice of award. The contractors will then submit their surety bonds or cash bonds, as the case may be, but probably surety for their performance and for their labor and materials and their obviously their liability and their auto and their umbrella insurance. And then afterwards, the contracts can be signed. Okay, and I'll coordinate with Delaware on that.
Was that all going in our resolution?
So that's,
Well, I can recite it that way if you want, and you can adopt it. I just wanted to give you the processes.
let's do it
notice
that
of-
way, Greg.
Yes.
We'll adopt it the way you recited.
Okay. All right.
And it's for do you need to name them?
I would do it if you want me to read it and you can adopt it, and I would do it that way. I think that's the most proper way to do it for something of this magnitude. Okay, on a public works side. If the board's finished discussing when you are, I can do that. Does that work?
So it's a summary, it's a one-page thing, and just afterwards, maybe post that on the town's website so people see the total amount.
Okay.
It's one page doc.
Right. Okay. I actually think I already posted it, but I'll make sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
Greg, go for it.
Okay, so the town board of the town of Lewisboro, acting as commissioners of the Oakridge Water District, awards the contracts for the Oakridge Water District WTP upgrades project for the general contract to TAM Enterprises at a cost not to exceed $3,279,163. For the electrical contract to Acorn Electrical at a cost not to exceed $200,000. And for the HVAC contract to Mace Contracting Corp at a cost not to exceed $195,000. These contractors all being the low responsible bidders meeting specifications, and all awards subject to review of performance bonds, labor and material bonds, and insurance by town council. That's all I have.
So moved by Mary Shaw.
Any further discussion?
No, we need a second.
Oh, second. So yeah, that's right. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to roll call
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Roll.
Oh,
Please, yes, please.
Discussion.
just on discussion. Just, my position is just because we're voting to proceed with granting these bids to address these issues with PFAS, that this in no way should it be taken by the residents, that we're not keeping our eyes open or our mind open to the fact that there may be additional problems not related to this that need to be addressed in the future. And I think that's one of Ms. Simone's O'Connor's fears, is that by doing this, that we will now proceed and ignore that there still may be other issues that need addressing, that this particular very expensive fix to one problem may not address. So I just want to make it clear that just because we're moving ahead with this project, that this doesn't mean that I plan on. I was only speaking for myself, but anyone who wants to join in will understand that we are not, it's not my intention to ignore the fact that there may be other issues that still need addressing.
I'm in total agreement with that. And if there are any specific issues, I'm always, as Patty mentioned, I'm available to discuss any specific issues that may come up.
The town continues to have its obligation
Right.
that goes forward.
Okay, roll call. Dan,
Aye.
Andrea,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Mary,
Mary Shaw, aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Okay,
So.
Okay.
That's for the.
awarding of the bids.
Awarding of the bids.
Do
Right.
we also have to have a separate resolution authorizing you to sign something?
Uh,
That's
Greg? Does that
No,
authorize?
no, the supervisor's a purchasing agent who could sign the contracts when they're prepared to be signed.
What they're awarded, okay.
Okay, but I can go ahead and sign the notice of award for each.
Absolutely, that's correct. That's what you've just done. Just notice
Okay.
to proceed and it's just what we're waiting on, okay?
Right, so once we get the contracts, we then run that, well, we review them, you and I will review them, and then we'll get them executed. Right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
So hopefully, I can coordinate with Delaware and they'll have the bonds to me, within a week or so. And once they're cleared up, then you'll be ready to issue the notice to proceed with the contracts.
okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Greg.
You're welcome.
And thanks, Robert. You're free to go unless you want to stick around. Thanks. Yes, fun. Real quick, consent agenda. Let's just quickly go through that. So, which includes the approval of minutes and the monthly reports from the building department and the police department. Like to motion that we approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, so now Dylan, it's your turn. Let's go with the NYSEG presentation.
Thank you, Supervisor. Let me just pull this up here.
Yeah, and I gotta put it up on the screen here. So,
Yep, just let me know when you can see the presentation.
No, it's not going there.
yeah,
No,
that
we have
he
to
set up his. So you gotta.
Okay.
So that's good. So.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. My name's Dil Miyoshi, and I am the Government and Community Relations Manager for NYSEG here in the Brewster Division, which covers the town of Lewisboro. Supervisor, thank you for inviting me here tonight to speak on this. So I will run through this really quickly. If you do have questions, feel free to stop me or ask at the end.
Yes, could you just give us the topic sentence, what you're gonna be talking about?
Sure. I'm just going to be giving a quick update on some of the stuff that's been going on within the town of Lewisboro, some of our vegetation management, some of our outages, our smart meter program, and just kind of an overall view. So just a brief overview about NYSEG. We do have our Brewster division in the southern portion of the state, but we are all over the state of New York, all the way out to Lancaster and up to Plattsburgh, with most of our territory taking place in the southern tier and the Finger Lakes. The Brewster division has just under 89,000 customers, running from eastern Dutchess County to most of Putnam County and northern Westchester County.
Dylan, are you moving through your slides? Because we're still on the first slide here.
I am. Is that not?
You have to. You are sharing your screen, I think, but it's not moving.
It's you.
It's you.
Is it me? No, I'm not sharing.
Oh, I just saw your mouse moving.
No, my mouse will move, but I'm viewing his screen, it says here.
Oh.
Able to see me moving the screen now?
No.
No.
Maybe reshare.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Don't even know about it.
There you go. Looks like you're,
Looks like you're on screen 3 or slide 3.
Okay.
Okay. So the Brewster division, as I mentioned, has about 89,000 customers. With that, we are starting the implementation of what is called our AMI program, or better known as smart meters. So these smart meters are currently being installed within Lewisboro and the surrounding towns in northern Westchester as part of our phase 2 of this project. So what this does is it allows us to be actually able to read your meter every month and eliminate estimated bill reading. This is something that is a game changer for us as a company, and we're very excited about it. And we expect this to continue through to August 2024, with most of Lewisboro being completed much earlier than this. And as of Friday, we had just over 26,000 of our 89,000 customers currently installed.
I have a question. I saw one just put in. How do you guys ensure that those are properly calibrated and you're getting accurate information?
Yep. So when so the contractor, they're called Grid One, when they come in to do the process, they write down the current number on the meter, and then they calibrate it with a few tests before it goes and it appears on your bill. So that is checked by our team up in Binghamton before we apply that to a customer's bill.
Thank you.
So if a customer has not gotten it yet, they should receive a mail notification rather shortly. They will receive an automated phone call about 1 to 2 days prior to installation. The day of, a field technician will go and do the meter. This results in about a 10-minute outage as we're popping the old meter out and the new one in. And then once we are done, we will put a successful install door hanger. And that is it. Customers don't even need to be home for this to happen. And you'll see some of these smart meters and mailings coming near you in the future if you have not already gotten one. So I will preface this electric operations section as I am not an engineer or anything, but if you do have more technical questions, I can take those back and get back to you. But just to go over some of our big projects that we've done in regards to Lewisboro and some of the neighboring towns, just to give you a picture of what's been going on. So in 2021, we completed a project on the Golden Bridge 414, which encompasses Lewisboro and Bedford, and we replaced over 119 poles that were all over 75 years old as part of one of our programs to update older poles as we can. So we've also, as part of this, is included a lot of automation into our program, including reclosures and trip savers, which help prevent long-term outages. You may experience, if a tree was to fall down on the line, you might see your lights flicker, or you might lose power for 15 seconds to a minute, and then the power comes back on. That is the technology working, where that used to be a 3 to 4 hour outage, now turns that into less than a minute outage. And so we have a bunch that we've put in locally through Bedford, North Salem, and Lewisboro, and every year we do continue to add to those. So just some of what we call our betterment projects. These are large projects that we try to, try to install and work with. And Lewisboro is a very unique town in terms of our grid system. You have feeds from North Salem, Bedford, Pound Ridge, and kind of these 4 towns work in tandem within our electrical system. So the big one is the Peach Lake 249, 250, and Golden Bridge 414, which installed the 3-phase step bank tie, which essentially allows a situation where if the Lewisboro part of town, suffered a tree falling on the line, we can use reclosers and trip savers that we tied into our system to pull power from North Salem to get Lewisboro customers back up. We've also done some work over in Wild Oaks, once again, tying in systems together to kind of make it a little easier so that we can use our smart system to find the outages right at the source and hopefully get a large chunk of customers back on quickly rather than waiting the few hours for outages. And that includes replacing 9 aging poles on Nash Road as well as part of that Wild Oaks project. Just some more betterment projects. These North Salem ones, the 250, Peach Lake 250, the Golden Bridge 421 are really essential. And the Golden Bridge 414 to Lewisboro's power. We've put in a lot of work over there and have continued to do some work within the town to improve the reliability of customers' power. So once again, we have some more trip savers that we did. Trip savers in 2022 and 2023. We installed 3 of them in Lewisboro, and that definitely has seen an improvement in the reliability within Lewisboro's power structure. We've also been working, you can see here, the last 4 years in terms of pole replacement. In 2020, we did 13 poles. 2021, we did 5 poles. 2022, we did 6 poles. And 2023, we did 9 poles.
Now, a question on the poles, Dylan. So this count does not reflect the poles that are taken out during storms, right?
Correct. This also does not include our resiliency ones. So, for example, the Pound Ridge 455, 456 project, which was a major project for us on the southern part of Lewisboro. That does not include this. This is just part of our betterment project that we work with and as part of our distribution line inspections. So it's been a lot more poles than this, but this is just kind of more of our blue sky replacement poles.
Right. Okay.
So we do have this betterment project for the town of Bedford, which is going to allow us to tie in more into the system, which allows us to tie Lewisboro even more into the system. So the ideal is we're able to cut where the power outage is to a small number of customers being out, and therefore we can get large chunk of customers back on as soon as possible. So this Bedford project will, result in more betterment and resiliency numbers for the town of Lewisboro.
Will that also affect those of us who live in the Vista area who are closer to Pound Ridge or not?
So that project would not. What the Vista folks are on our betterment lists. The issue with that is that circuit of the Vista area is about 50 customers. So you guys are also right on the border, and with state tariff laws, we're actually not allowed to tie in over into Eversource in Connecticut, which would make way more sense. Unfortunately, that's just the federal law that they have with that for whatever reason. And so that is on our list, but we do have quite a few projects before that. But we have been trying to work to tie in more of the end piece of Lewisboro, the Vista piece, with the end of Pound Ridge, because Pound Ridge suffers a lot of those same issues.
Thank you.
So, as I mentioned earlier with some of the automation, the 414s recently got 2 new reclosures and a trip saver. Peach Lake 250, which feeds part of Lewisboro, 1 regulator and 3 reclosures, and the 455, which also goes into Lewisboro. It's got one trip saver, and the 456, which touches Lewisboro, it's got 2 new trip savers as well. And then, so just to give you an idea of what we deal with in the division. So this is for our whole Brewster division. Trees outside of our right of way, the ROW is our most significant issue. Same with a number of customers. This has been, from 2019 to 2023, our largest issue. And then just to dig into those numbers a little bit more in terms of Lewisboro, this is for major storms, major declared storms, typically tend to be multi-day outages, things like that. Trees outside of our right of way are far and away our biggest issue. As you thankfully, as you can see in 2023, that issue was a lot less of an issue than it was in 2022. And that speaks to some of the resiliency work and trip savers and things like that that we've been working on in the town of Lewisboro. And just
hold on a second. Yeah, right there. I'm just so we understand the numbers under that tree out right away column.
Yep.
So that's 2019 to 2023. So there was an increase from 2019 to 2020, a pretty like 3 times, right?
Yeah. So this is a major storm.
That's when we have multiple storms, right? The winter storms, I think.
Yeah, so this includes the big winter storms, any major flooding, and so I'll show you on this is more of a minor, well, we call it a minor storm, but think of it as like a more of a blue sky day, kind of more your regular type of day. In 2022 and 2023, we have seen a large significant rise in trees outside of the right of way, just simply because trees in this area are getting a lot older and they are breaking off. And then also a large amount of customer refusals when we bring our folks in and, we try to cut some trees, we tend to get a lot of declines or straight out refusals from customers in the northern Westchester area. And then just how many hours that customers have been out. So as you can see, the numbers are going down, and that's thanks to the trip savers and the reclosures that it allows us to get significant chunks of people up quicker. And so while there may be some people that are out for long term during major storm, we are able to knock that number down thanks to some of the smart technology that we've been installing. And then just, for scale, for, kind of our blue sky days and things like that, we are working continuously to ensure that customers get on as quickly as possible. And then I always just like to make this pitch at the end. So our company, we are doing an extensive volunteering program. We are always looking for local nonprofits, especially down in the Lewisboro area. So if anybody has any leads or anything like this, we have a program where for every hour our employees work with the organization and volunteer, we'll donate $15 per hour per employee. And so, there's organizations we've worked with that, can receive $7,000-8,000 based on, number of people working and hours and things like that. And, at minimum, they can receive, $1,000 on a typical event, which is huge for nonprofits. And then just some of pictures of what we've done, including United for the Troops, which has been a great organization. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Any questions from the board?
So if I understood you correctly, through technological improvements and preventive maintenance, you diminished outages and increased reliability in Lewisboro?
Yep, that is correct. And then I know Tony has the list that Sam Miller sent. We do have an extensive list of roads within Lewisboro this year that are scheduled for tree trimming as well. So my message to people is, if there's a tree that we think is worthy of being cut down, and we come to your home and ask if that is allowed, I encourage you to say yes. And, we're going to be going through this process throughout the year. And, our vegetation management team is, one of the best around, able to work with customers and discuss with them at any time.
And that's, I can attest to that. So Sam Miller actually had a meeting this week, last week. I think it was last week with a person that had some concern over trees that were going to be taken down. So, and I think they came to agreement.
I hope that whoever comes to cut down the trees does a good job, because I am happy that they came. They asked to cut down trees on my property that were close to the wires, and I was very glad to have them do it. However, they left a very ugly skeleton of a tree that could have come down to the base of the tree, and they let it stand with just, it looks awful. So I just ask that when they do come and you do have cooperative homeowners, that you work with them to make sure that the tree, I'm not asking for stump removal, but at least the tree is cut back in a way that leaves the property looking as nice as it did when the tree was up. That's all.
Understood. And I'll take that back to vegetation management.
What about tree removal? I have a tree they took down the end of my driveway from at least 2019 and literally it's still sitting there.
So should we allow public
Why just?
interaction?
Yeah.
They can't hear you.
If you should go to the mic.
I think
I'll repeat it for Daniela Goldman, I'm sorry, who asked, she had a tree taken down, but they didn't remove they didn't remove the tree from her property. They said it wasn't her problem. It wasn't their problem.
right. In other words, they were from the wires, but they left the carcass there and said, okay, the rest is on you.
Understood. Did this happen during a major storm event?
No. It's frequent.
Okay. If you want to give the supervisor your contact information and address, I'm more than happy to speak with vegetation management and find out what happened there. More than happy to do that.
It's still there?
Is there a
We can give you their information.
Yeah, that's fine. We will provide.
Let me just ask, there's another person in the room. Did they take care of your trees, Nick?
They leave everything, they
But-
cut it to a height and they leave it there. There's
Yep.
no.
Oh, but they didn't leave any debris on
No,
your,
they do leave the debris.
but did they come back after you and I spoke?
No, they always leave the debris.
Okay, so you gotta let me know.
Debris.
If they didn't come back, just let me know.
Yeah.
No,
So,
yeah.
do we know, is there a policy specifically addressing this, Don?
So during what we declare a major storm event, we do not remove debris. However, for the most part, we've done our best to try to do in manageable pieces and things like that. So it really is a case by case basis, but I know kind of our overall blanket policy is during a major storm event, we do not pick up tree debris or anything like that, because we're trying to restore power as quickly as possible. So, crews will cut the tree, they'll do their best to put it in manageable pieces, and then typically when we're in the assessing and make safe process, we work with the local highway crews, and some towns have their highway crews take care of those trees.
Can you just trail behind in the next day or two with a chipper?
For major storms, we do not do that. But I'm
You got it subsequent days, and and now you can't do it at the time you're restoring power. I get it, but you come back, say, a week later with a chipper, and you just,
Well, I understand major storms. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother project into itself, but when
Right.
they come and they ask, can we, we'd like to take these trees down. Because they're interfering with the wires, then they should do the full job. Again, I'm not talking about stump grinding, but at least leave the
Take away-
property looking as nice as it did when you arrived. That's all.
no understood. And yeah, if you get me that information, I can see track down what happened there and get back to the supervisor with an answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dylan.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack
Oh,
that,
that's
but
okay. Yeah. All right, so now Parks and Rec, I'd like to jump. I think Nicole is still on, hopefully.
Yes. Yes, she is.
Hi, Nicole.
I've got to unmute her first. You there, Nicole?
Tony.
Hi there. Okay, so let's start with you have a bunch of items here. So we'll start with the fireworks. So the request here is for us to waive the procurement policy. And so can you explain to the board why you're requesting that?
Sure. So International Fireworks has been conducting our fireworks show for over 20 years, I believe. And the last time a proposal was put out back in 2019, the other three did not send a proposal back, only International did. And then back in 2022, right before I came on, Tony, you had renewed the contract with International for 2 years at $14,100. They are willing to keep that price for the next 2 years. So to save going out to bid, figured that this was the best route to go.
Same show, same number of shells, same price, so moved.
Well, look,
The record of success that she mentions in her letter.
Yeah. The other thing I just want to make sure is that they clean up after themselves and not leave behind any unexploded shells.
Correct. And that was not this past year, the year prior.
Yeah, I
Oh, that
remember.
actually,
Yeah,
yes, all that happened, yes.
I was there.
There was a move, Rich moved. Mary, do you want a second?
I'll second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Roll call, because
Yes.
it's,
Anybody, right?
yeah,
Even though it's below threshold? Okay, aye.
Yeah, but there's an expenditure, so it should be, it is below the threshold. Just the expenditure should have the roll call, I think.
Mary,
Mary Shaw, aye.
I'm an aye. Andrew?
Andrea Rendo, aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Okay, so we're good.
AEDs.
Yep.
Next is the AEDs. So we had approved these at the last town board meeting.
Yeah.
And but what we're doing here. Go ahead, Nicole, I'll let you explain.
Okay, so as I had put in the email, I did state that, yes, we approved the bond at the last meeting, but now I'm looking for you to authorize purchasing from this specific dealer. They are local. They will come set up the AEDs. They will train staff if needed. They track the battery life. They are a sole source provider. So looking for approval to not have to go out to bid and purchase specifically from Advantage Emergency Devices.
Greg, that's an exception, right? I mean, aside from the fact that it's still.
Correct, yeah, I mean, they're really rendering services that kind of pushes it towards the 35,000 threshold to me. But even as a sale of goods, as a sole source, that is exempt from competitive bidding, so the board can consider it on that recommendation to that particular vendor.
Thank you. So moved.
Oh.
You want to move? Mary wants to move.
I move.
I'll second.
Just note that this is just over 27,000, which I think was below the 30,000 we were talking about.
Well,
Yes, it is.
I was gonna ask about that, but there's actually two invoices, and I meant to call you earlier, Nicole, so I apologize for not calling you. There are two invoices. One for 7,170.
Oh, calculate, it's a subtotal, goes back on the back.
Oh, the subtotal carries over.
Yes.
Does
Yeah,
it?
it's page
Oh,
one
I
and then
apologize.
page
The
two.
totals on there.
I take that back.
So-
Okay, so we're good.
So for the people at home, when we say AED, that means Advanced Emergency Devices. And these are devices when someone has a heart attack that they will dial 911 and then the device will open and then the people at the parks will be able to use the device to defibrillate the person whose heart is not working. and restore electrical current to the heart to get them going again while our emergency services comes to take the person to the hospital.
Aside from the cold, I guess it's a legal.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a legal requirement.
And just to clarify, Advanced Emergency Device is the name of the company.
And the device.
And the device is automated external defibrillator, AED.
Mary moved and I seconded.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, roll call. Rich?
Aye.
Mary Shaw, aye.
I'm an aye.
Andrea Rendo, aye.
Dan?
Dan Welsh, aye.
Okay. Okay, next, Nicole, so, is the, approved engineering proposal for design of town park water filtration system. So this is for the upgrade that we're doing for the town park. So I'll go ahead and let you explain it.
I think you're better at explaining this, but this is basically the proposal to bring Delaware Engineering on. So $5,500, basically to move forward for the upgrade of the well system for the town park pool.
Right, and this upgrade will include some improvements, including a tank for storage, which will help with pressure. And some other equipment, but they haven't designed that yet. So this is a proposal for the engineering work and design work
Correct.
For the water system.
for the water system.
Correct.
So the 5,500 for Delaware, this will give us a scope of the work and cost.
Correct. Going back to not a second well, but upgrading that system to potentially put a storage tank underground that will store 20 to 30,000 gallons of filtered water for immediate use.
Right, and I correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, but part of this is that once we do any kind of upgrades to the bathhouse or redesign or rebuild the bathhouse, and we're actually improving the bathroom facilities and the running water facilities, the Department of Health gets involved, and the current system that's there would need to be upgraded anyway.
Correct.
It had been grandfathered.
Correct, right.
So I understand all this, but we had discussed the option of the second well. And not that I want to use this evening's time to do this, but the pros and cons of putting in a second well versus a holding tank. And also, I know that there was a discussion about when we filled the pool. And the enormous amount of water, obviously, that it takes to fill the pool and what effect it has, because, you know, since our current system and our current well is so, it is inadequate as it is now. You know, wouldn't it be better to have a second well? That
I know we discussed that with Joel, and I forget exactly. I believe what he said was that we have plenty of capacity in the existing well.
Correct. Delaware said that we did not need a second well, that the better route to go would be the holding tank, that our issue is the pressure, not the lack of water, basically. So once you flush 2 toilets and you're trying to fill the pool, and then a baseball game is going on and they utilize that toilet or sink, that's where we're losing the water pressure. But if we have the water stored in the storage tank, we're not continuously running that. We're just feeding out of the storage that's already filtered.
Right.
So this is just engineering. They're going to do the basic engineering for the required facilities, I guess, because it's funny, the one line here says the proposed engineering services will include all costs for labor materials. I think what they meant is the engineering services will, the scope of those engineering services will include the development of the cost for labor materials.
I would consider it to be a facilities report.
Yeah, so the wording's a little bit not quite there, but so we understand.
And they would basically handle all the communication with the Department of Health, which they've done, for example, for Oakridge, they've done it with Onitru. In fact, we still have an ongoing project with Onitru and the Department of Health in Delaware. And then for the actual work, the New York State EFC WIA grants, the Water Improvement Infrastructure grant, opened up. So it would be an opportunity for us, which is what we had agreed to do, to apply. Once they design it and put a cost to it, we can submit that for reimbursement. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. So motion,
I move that we. Let's see,
it's a not to exceed.
Approve the engineering proposal for design of the water park filtration system to Delaware Engineering for the amount not to exceed $5,000.
So,
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right, so next is the architecture proposal for the town park bathhouse renovation.
yes,
I
can, yeah,
want to talk about that?
yeah, I can touch on that briefly, Nicole, if it's all right, and you can pick up.
Sure.
Okay, and I gave out initial drawings today. At the meeting a couple weeks ago, we were talking about bonding, up to 600,000 for the bathhouse. And part of my point on that is we didn't know with accuracy what the number was going to be. So the pool committee has met. I've met with Bill for a good amount of time.
Bill Tackler?
Yes, Bill Tackler. On Sunday for Super Bowl. And so what we're bringing forward today is a proposal for $5,000 retainer for Darren Mercer, architect. And that $5,000 retainer is going to give us schematics for the project, its scope and the amount of money. Also, that'll have structural elevation, 3D images, in the renderings. That, in other words, that amount of money is going to get us to the next step where we'll be able to, with some precision, know the scope of the bathhouse, what the project's going to be, as well as the cost, which with accuracy, which is going to be more than the 600, but less than the $1 million we were talking about. And that'll get us on the way to refining the proposal, having detailed pictures to what it's going to be, and hopefully set us on the path to be able to move forward with this project in the fall of 2024.
You want to add anything, Nicole, to that?
No, I think Rich nailed it.
Okay. So we have and you and I spoke about this. So the questions I had were related to the fact that we had a prior proposal from Studio Architecture, but it really wasn't like an apples to apples comparison to the Darren Mercer proposal.
Well, and also, as we proceed forward and bringing Darren on board, we have the opportunity for value engineering. He's going to have a percentage of the project. It's going to be an opportunity to bring on board local contractors
well, it'd have to go out to bid. So
yes, but the opportunity, but leverage those relationships and see if there's an opportunity to do so with that, and get the best possible product for best possible price, and also have something that's going to be a jewel in the town park.
Well, I don't understand why, I'm sure this is a lovely architectural firm and all, but why are we limiting ourselves? Why aren't we putting it out for other architectural firms to bid on and see what we could get? Different renderings, et cetera. I mean, it's something that's going to be with the town for a while. I'd like to see what we're going to be getting.
Precisely, and what we're doing now is for this $5,000, we're going to get a picture as to what we're going to be getting. I mean, we can stop at that point, take a look and see exactly what it is and what the costs are, and
then what? But then we have one architectural firm. Don't we want to see what other architectural firms think this should look like?
Well, we'll take a look at where we're at at that point and go from there. All we're doing is obligating for the $5,000 to get the schematics as far as the cost and scope of the project, and take a look at that. That's all we're obligating ourselves to right now.
Nicole, I know you went back to the other quote that we received.
I reached out to Joe Tremelli on Friday. Spoke to him over the phone. He was going to reach out to his architect, Chris, who had provided that previous quote. I did not receive anything back yet. But with Chris's architectural quote, we then also have to receive a proposal from Joe to oversee the engineering services, and then the bid package.
Is that, yeah, right, so the bid package is included.
With
as well-
Darren's.
With Darren's, as well as the construction management.
Correct.
So the 5,000 you're talking about, Rich, is at the end of this proposal talks about a retainer of $5,000. That $5,000?
Well, it's, as I
Yeah.
understand, yes,
Okay.
but this is what the 5,000 is getting us towards that.
How do we know that?
What's that?
A retainer is a retainer. What if they come back and they ask to have it replenished, or they need more time, or?
Well, I've been, as explained to me, the 5,000 retainer is gonna get us the schematics. Talk about the scope of the project and the amount. Structural elevation, the 3D drawings, and then that's what we're gonna give us to take a look at. So we'll know with pictures what the project's gonna look like, what its cost is gonna be. And then,
Well, that's my point.
yeah,
Shouldn't we let other architects give us ideas of what it could look like? We're limiting ourselves to this one architect's design of what this new pool house is gonna look like. Are we not? I mean, just because they come up with some schematics, wouldn't another architect come up with a different idea? We say, look, this is what we want. We need these 10 things to appear in this building. Like, this is what we want in this building. Ready, set, go, right? And then they come back and they go, these are our ideas. And we think it could look like this. And another firm will say, we think it could look like that. And this is what's going to cost. And so we have like several ideas to look at.
and you're right, here you have something tangible to take a look at on that point. It doesn't preclude you from, going wherever we need to go at that point. As opposed to taking an abstract and putting out, here's an abstract concept to a bunch, to anybody who wants to take a look at it. This is the first step that it would have to be for anyone.
But this says in terms of $5,000, if acceptable, meaning their proposal, which totals $78,500.
Yes.
If that proposal is acceptable, please return the retainer deposit of $5,000. It doesn't say that we're getting something in return for $5,000.
Does not.
Is Bill on?
No, Bill left, but
Okay.
I mean, Darren told us on Friday that it would get us basically through phase 2. Nobody is going to provide us any type of renderings, drawings free of charge. So we could reach out to other architects and get a concept plan, but they're not going to draw anything until we give them money, basically.
No,
Do
I've
we-
seen it where I've seen renderings of 3 different rec centers, and then the town board decided to go with a particular architect over another architect because they liked what they came up with versus.
Maybe
That's just me.
it's a bigger
I'm
number,
just-
maybe.
Yeah, I'm just
Maybe.
taking a $5,000 step in this direction, and that's all I'm
Right, but it's
making a motion to do.
It's a
But it's not a
deposit.
deliverable. It doesn't specify deliverable. I understand what you were saying, and I thought that, could be, should we pay $5,000 to get some drawings? Possibly, but it doesn't say that here.
Well, if you wanna,
you read-
clarify the scope of the motion, that's fine.
Do we, just in terms of your point, Andrew, with other architects, so I know when this was looked at before, we had Steve Helms, who is, he does a lot of work. I think I don't know if he did Mercedes, or he's done a lot of work in town. Do we want him to dust off? I think I've seen some old files, from when this was looked at years ago.
Greg, what are our options?
I mean, it's a professional services proposal, so you're not bound by anything in terms of competitive pricing. You can award it without, but if you're talking about, soliciting design professionals to give you, basic renderings so that you can choose a concept before you award an actual design.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that and seen that done, from design professionals looking for work, who will put something on paper without, as almost as a RFQ type of thing. But your options are whatever the board deems to be best. You're not required to get competitive pricing for professional services under the law or under your procurement policy. I don't think you are, or you can waive your procurement policy. And it's a question of, if this particular architect comes up with a concept, I guess the question is, are you separable and have somebody else do it for better economics? And I'm not sure that that's the way that's going to work. I think that the concept is going to be that firms when they render it under, the intellectual property laws, right? So
I would think if they come up with an idea that the expectation is that they're going to complete it.
I mean, the proposal carries it through design. It does. I guess the question is, can you, is it terminable, by either party once you get to a point where you realize it's not going in a direction that the board prefers from a design standpoint or from any other logistical standpoint? You could probably add that to it, and maybe that gets it off the ground, at least getting something on paper for how it's going to appear for the board to consider. Okay. You're not,
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Rich.
No, because I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Said it all.
So Nicole, you're good with this path as well as Bill and the pool committee as well?
Yes.
Just, this was the result of the sketch that we're looking at as the result of the track and.
Yeah, initial for the pool committee, that's their first, input, so it's, it's something that's just so everybody has something visual to look at.
It's just a floor plan.
Right.
Is that within the existing footprint, or is it within the existing space?
It's
Or is that
2,400, no, is gonna be a bump out is what they're contemplating,
Pardon?
a bump out.
A bump out.
For the lifeguard room?
The idea is to incorporate with the bump out, the concept is that the lifeguard building, whatever, room, yes, would turn into, be utilized in the concept for storage, so that the town would be able to store things that are kept out of a permanent storage facility for different equipment, right? Nicole, do I have that right?
Correct. So that floor plan was very basic, gave Darren some ideas of what we were looking for, but now going to scale back on that. And then, yes, putting the lifeguards and pool director in front of that, where that would bump out, but I think it's still within the 2,400 or 2,500 square feet of what we already have as our foundation.
So that's what, it's just the $5,000 commitment and doesn't preclude us from doing anything else at that point.
But what does that 5,000? So I still have the question. What does that $5,000 get us? Is that just an entry? Is that it says it's a retainer deposit?
No, it's
Or the
right. You mentioned that
78,000.
in answering your question, it gets us the schematics, which are going to deal with the scope of the project, as well as an accurate cost, and the structural elevations and 3D drawings. So that's what's going to.
And then if we look at those schematics and say, okay, we're going to hold off, we're not going to do anything Are we down just to $5,000 or? have we
Yes,
committed?
that's the whole idea. As I said, all I'm asking for is the $5,000
Because
expenditure.
there's a pre-design service of 2,500, design development of 12,000.
Mhm.
Construction documents of 30, so forget the construction documents, that'll get into detail about the stuff that our building inspector will look at, right? But the design development is 12,000.
Right, the idea is this is what the $5,000 is getting. That's what the motion is for the expenditure for and nothing else. That's what we're doing. So-
Yeah, but that's not what it says.
Okay, so we can clarify the motion. So it
Phase
is clear.
1 is 2,500, phase 2 is 12,000. 12,000, it sounds like we're gonna have renderings. Because phase 3 deals with approvals, permitting, and that's an hourly rate. So it sounds like to get to the end of phase 2, that's where we're gonna find what the pool house is gonna look like. Right?
I mean, the email from Nicole, and I'm just reading that email that you sent Friday, Nicole, where it says by paying Darren $5,000, we will get through phase 2 of his proposal. We will then see drawings, designs, 3D renderings, et cetera. But the contract that we're being asked to approve says that phase 2 is going to cost us 12,000. And
Right,
before that,
so
it's
clarify
going to-
we'll clarify the discrepancy and make the motion so it makes clear exactly what we're paid for, no problem.
So maybe get that clarification and then at that point, see if we get any updates regarding this other architect, Chris?
If you want to make it continue, you know, we approved spending up to $5,000 to secure the design, this and the data as set out in this proposal under phase 1 and phase 2, and contingent on clarifying that scope and having the ability to cancel if those designs at that point don't meet our needs.
Well, I said, it's my understanding, it's not obligating us to do anything further except pay that money for what's gonna be given to us. That's it.
Okay.
That's all.
But that's not what it says.
Well,
I know, Tony, you brought that up. I said, yes, so we'll clarify it in the motion.
That's what I was trying to sort of get to right there. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, well, Dan, when you said it's yes, agreed.
Okay, so, I mean, we could structure our resolution to do that, and then the only issue is like
I don't
the
think
issue
we,
about whether, you know, at that point, we're committed or not.
I'd rather not vote until it's clarified. And I still don't like the idea of being locked into one architect. So that we're paying for plans that we may not use when we could go out for an RFP and have choice.
Nicole, can you clarify any of that? Are we locking us in? Is this locking us into anything except the expenditure of the 5,000?
Just locking us into seeing drawings, correct. After that, if you don't want to proceed, then we don't proceed.
It's $5,000 for drawings. You're not limited to a concept. You're not limited to going forward with this entity or anything else.
But that point needs to be clarified.
Well, you
That's
just said,
what it is.
Nicole, that's the
Yeah.
understanding, or
That's-
clarify the motion, make the motion that's what it is, no problem. So that's what we'll adopt.
Make the motion that the proposal, amended to reflect that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, then that shouldn't be an issue.
You raised a valid point, Tony, as far as the discrepancy, so clarify the discrepancy in the motion, no problem.
No, but I was just speaking to what Nicole just said, that the 5,000 will get us drawings.
Yeah. Right.
Yes,
So
it
we're
will.
saying that
You're
the
saying.
motion will be that we're approving up to $5,000 to cover phase 1 and phase 2 of this proposal. Irrespective of the lack of clarity in the proposal, and that we have the option to not go forward and to cancel the rest of the contract.
There's nothing to cancel. All we're doing is paying $5,000 for drawings. That's all we're doing.
Right, but if they
But you
can't
keep saying
confirm that they can,
$5,000 for
if
drawings.
they can't provide drawings for $5,000, then what are we paying them $5,000 for? If they're gonna work, if this is a deposit on a retainer and they exhaust the $5,000 retainer and we never get a full set of drawings, they're gonna come back and say, we need more money to finish the drawings. I don't want to vote on anything until I know what we're getting for $5,000. I
So
don't
why don't
like
why don't we
changing
clarify?
the motion and
Right. So why don't we clarify that, and at the same time, maybe give Joe, because I know it was like Friday when we asked him for Thursday or Friday, but we asked him to go back to Chris at Studio Architecture, or whatever the name was. And then that may give us a better, like a apples to apples comparison.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can clarify. I'll make the motion for the $5,000 for the drawings to be done as discussed by Nicole. That's my motion.
For the drawings to be done as discussed by Nicole.
Yeah, as set forth by Nicole, that's what we're getting. On the record, she stated what it's going to be, and that's what it's gonna be. It's obligating us $5,000 for drawing.
I just sent an email to Darren for clarification. So as soon as I receive an answer, hopefully tomorrow, I will let you all know.
So if he comes back tomorrow and says drawings are not included for $5,000.
It's still back the same thing. It's like, I'll pay you $10 to paint your house. If it's, if they don't provide a response, then there's not a payment. So you
Right.
yeah, you exchange it for services that are gonna be done for a certain payment for the
Right.
contractors.
And Nicole, Joe never, he never got back to you, right? You said?
We spoke. We spoke on Friday and I have not received anything.
Okay. So why don't we wait? See if we receive anything on the other from Studio Architecture. And then we can pick this up again the next meeting.
I don't know if that addresses your thinking, Andrea.
I'd rather wait. Rich has a motion on the table, so it has to be seconded and voted on, or before we get to a motion to table or whatever it is.
All right, so Rich has a motion. So can you do the motion again?
Motion to spend no more than $5,000 for drawings referable to the pool house. Simple.
I'll second it.
Dan?
We're doing a roll call?
No.
Well, so he's got a motion to
Yeah.
spend not more than $5,000 for
Right, and it
drawings.
was seconded. So are we
Yeah.
just asking me, are we doing roll call then?
Oh,
Well, isn't there
Motion.
discussion?
oh, discussion.
Discussion.
We
sorry.
just discussed it.
Yeah,
My discussion, the only thing I would rather just table the whole thing until the next meeting, until we know for sure. That's just me. So you guys, you can call for a vote.
okay, so roll call vote on spending $5,000 for drawings. Dan?
I guess I'm just going with the sense of what I hear at the board. Sorry, Rich was trying to put this together, but I don't think we have a solid agreement on this. I'll say no for now.
Andrew?
No,
Mary?
You
I'll say no.
would have liked to say yes, but
Say yes.
Okay, well, I think we should proceed to $5,000 for it. That's votes yes for, because I made the motion, but so be it. Trying to move forward on the bathhouse.
Okay, so
so then I'll make a motion to table this resolution until the next town board meeting.
And
a second. Discussion?
we have to
Do
take,
I
I mean, it's just like.
I don't know, do we
Yeah,
have,
okay.
Greg, do we have,
just voted on.
No, we voted no, but then if we have clarification by the next time, you can bring it
I
up
think-
again if we hear from or we could change it if we hear from the second architect.
The motion was, so the vote was the vote, so we'll bring up a new motion, we'll bring up a new motion, right?
The motion that Councilor Sclera made was for, modified, modification of the proposal on its face, so. And that didn't pass, so you can either leave it as it lays, or you can table the proposal itself, either way.
Just leave it as a lay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the next meeting, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
And if in sort of looking at the timelines and everything, things get tight for whatever reason, to
We can,
act faster,
yeah, we
just
can
let
act.
us know.
Okay, so, Nicole, before you go, I'm gonna jump to the appointment of maintenance worker equipment and ground. So that was the civil service. Came back to Kerry, with regard, this is with regards to Andrew, right?
Yes.
Okay, and this is, we had to go through the civil service process to, I'll let you explain it, to get that position, right, that title for him?
Yes, so I was looking to promote Andrew, a step above where he is at, not quite at a foreman position yet. So I was looking at a caretaker. After filling out the forms and sending to civil service, his responsibilities didn't really fit that title. Our rep came back and gave us a different title that we had to then get approval for, and also ask the Teamsters to accept that into their contract as well.
Right, so this was already, yeah, so we had already approved Andrew, right?
Correct.
So that's been done, and so this was the creation of this title to fit within the union agreement for supporting.
Same salary that I budgeted for as a caretaker, but because he did not fit that title, we requested this title and will be paid at that same salary.
Okay. Yeah.
Are we appointing him or are we doing?
Changing.
So this is a change of title for him, right?
Yes.
And it's the same rate of pay.
Okay,
Well, he'll be a step, no, his rate of pay will change.
so
It
we
will be
should,
a step up.
yeah. Greg, is this something that we should move to executive session? Because I was under the impression we had already approved the rate of pay.
You're certainly entitled to discuss it in exec, whatever you're going to approve has got to be at the open meeting. So if it's something that you are not finalized on in terms of the rate or whatever the step and grade is, then you should do it in exec before you come out with a final
But
vote
that's
on
what
it.
I'm clarifying, and maybe I'm just forgetting, what we had discussed prior, but I believe that the rate had been approved, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, it had been
I
approved.
thought so.
Yeah, but it's just the title that. Right, so this is to put him officially in this title. Okay,
Okay.
so
That's the motion.
that's a motion to appoint the appointment of maintenance worker equipment and grounds title to True Fairness. I motion that, so go ahead a second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Is it effective today or?
Nicole?
I think that's.
Could it be effective yesterday? Was that the start of the new payroll?
Retroactively to yesterday?
See, hold on a second. I thought the civil service didn't have to have an effective date. Here. Hold on a second. Let's see.
I believe it was approved last Monday from civil service.
Oh, here it is. Hold on a second.
Yes, it was approved under the Fed.
Yeah, Monday the 5th.
So effective February 5th, 2024.
So we had after we had approved him going into that pay scale in a prior meeting, we had to go through the civil service process. Correct, Kerry? We had to do the X310 application. Okay,
That got approved,
right.
and then the OJ3 back last.
And then the OG3.
Last
okay.
Monday.
Okay,
So you're good with February 5th, right?
yes.
Okay. Do we need to change it? Or
The motion?
the motion to reflect that, or is
I'm
that
just
good?
adding it in.
Okay.
Effective
Okay,
2/5/24.
Thank you.
Okay.
And who was the second?
Any further discussion? Do I have a second?
No, there was already
Was there
a
a second?
second. I think it was Andrew. that
Andrew?
was
Okay.
seconded.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
We already got
Okay. Good. All right, so I think you're good. You're free to go, Nicole.
Thank you.
Think there's anything else? Thank you. Okay. Oh, actually, before you go, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
I saw your email today regarding the solar panels, so I just wanted to make mention to the board that the PrAC is okay with it on the barn roof. And we got okay from the garden club,
On the barn
right?
roof.
The barn roof for the
As
solar,
opposed to
it's not an agenda item, but we need to get back with the application that we submitted for the grant.
Cost, we said we wouldn't approve anything without knowing what it requires of the barn to get up to speed to accept
Can-
it.
Yeah, why don't you get up to the, so Daniela's with PrAC.
Correct. So we had discussed, and correct me if I'm wrong, we had discussed, we wanted to know the price of the barn right now cannot withstand the weight.
It can, we determined that it can.
So I guess
It
we
was
don't
that.
know that. PrAC doesn't even know that because we were under the assumption it couldn't handle the weight, that there was a lot of work that needed to be done on the barn.
I think that the final thing that we were talking about in PrAC was the fact that we weren't sure about the re-roofing of it.
Right, so there's a question of re-roofing of it because it's an old roof that was on it. There's a question of a weight issue on it. That we wanted to know how much all of that was gonna cost, because right now it only appears it gives you back $4,000 a year to put this on there for On a True.
Mhm.
But if the cost for all of this is $100,000, that doesn't make financial sense from PrAC's standpoint. And so we were waiting to hear back what the cost was going to be to see if this was even.
So the latest information that I forwarded to Nicole and also to the garden club folks who were interested in this was that the barn can support the weight.
Okay.
So that's not an issue.
Who made that determination?
The sustainability committee through engineers that came and visited multiple times the facility.
By looking at it?
I'm not the engineer, but we have multiple people that looked at it and said it was okay.
So there's an engineer, because we were worried, because it's an old barn
Yeah.
and those are super heavy solar panels that were going on there. Originally, there was a concern for this structure not being able to withstand that kind of weight.
Right. So the information I received back is that the structure was okay. And that we can move forward with putting panels on the roof.
Right, and Parks and Rec, as long as it financially didn't have a huge impact,
The
they
decision
were
that
fine with the
Yeah.
panel going on that
So
roof.
this decision that we have to make now is with regards to the roof replacement. Do we wait 13 years, which is the life of the current roof, approximately?
Mhm.
Or do we go, just hold on a second, or do we go ahead and replace the roof like we've done with other On a True buildings recently?
Right, that's what
Potentially.
that PrAC wanted, was
Yeah.
the financial breakdown of how much it was gonna cost. But no, they didn't have a problem with putting it on the roof of that. They just
Okay.
didn't know that it was even doable.
Right.
Yeah.
Does the licensed engineer put that in writing, that it can structurally support this?
Dan, the
No,
folks
there's
that-
no licensed engineer currently, but before the solar installer does it, there'll be drawings from a signed engineer. So
Saying what, talking about the roof?
yeah,
So
right,
but what
before
point in
anything
time?
that's required, by law, they have to have a PE sign off on the drawings and everything submitted to the building department and all that, but for this purpose, they're looking at the spans and the width of the timbers and all that, and they can eyeball it.
Steve Miller
No, but-
had
That's Steve
approved
Miller,
it
so.
based on the design of the barn. And his concern initially was the
And they-
stills, but then he came back and said, we don't have to do the sills now,
Right.
you can do it down the road.
And
Shouldn't we have more than
just so-
eyeballing it?
just
Because,
so we-
you know,
so-
people going in that, it's a perceivable hazard if it's not
Just so
structurally
we
supporting
understand, the
people.
solar panels add about 2 pounds per square foot. It's not actually a huge
I think,
difference. I think
How many square feet is it?
the sort of standard benchmark for roofing loads is something like 30 or something like that square pounds per square foot. So this adds, you know, a minor amount to that.
Well, it adds 2, and how many square feet is it?
I don't know.
It's
If it's
roughly 70 foot long by 20 foot.
So it's 1,400 square.
1,400 square.
2,800.
So times 2, so it's 3,000 pounds, right?
Spread over 1,400 square feet.
Okay, so shouldn't we have an engineer just ensure
How much
that it
is-
structurally can support it as opposed to just eyeballing it from a committee? I think that's important. It's a foreseeable risk.
Nothing will be built on it until a registered engineer does that final study. This is the, you know, they're not gonna do the full engineering work just for proposal's sake right now.
This is for the sake of getting an application in for the grant. And then you still gotta go through the process of the design work for installation of the panels.
Right, it's not gonna go on there before a registered engineer does the final design on it and verifies that it's adequate.
And submit stamp plans.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And then approved by a building department.
Right.
Okay, so I think we just wanted to, while Nicole was on, just to clarify that, because that was an email she sent to me today that saying that Prac was okay with putting it on the roof. And the garden club were okay with that as well. Okay, you may go now, Nicole. Thank you. What do you think your kids are waiting?
Thank you for being here, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
they're not.
Thank
sleeping.
you.
Sorry.
They're
Okay.
already asleep.
Yes, they
Uh,
better be.
Comment number 1, now that Nicole and NYSEG are addressed as stated previously.
As soon as we're done with the business, because then
Oh,
at public comment,
NYSEG and Nicole.
no, it was, well, that was part of the reason was to get them in, but that's part of the new business, yeah. So next we have approval payment for electronic fingerprint scanner, the life scan grant reimbursement for PD, police department. You want to speak to that here or? Or I can,
I'll move. We, Dave Alfano applied for this, I think it was last year. And,
September we were. granted,
and
yeah.
we were given the grants, and so now, we can go ahead and approve kind of like a purchase order. You have to show that the town board
It's committed to.
is committed to the expenditure before the grant can be completed or verified, so,
Second.
we have it. So, yes, thank you. I'll move. You'll
You did
second.
move already, you said you're moving.
I'll move.
Yeah.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All
We
right,
don't need to,
actually, we do, right? Greg, we need to roll call because it's $22,000.
Yeah, the expenditure is a roll call.
Yeah. Okay, Mary,
Mary Shaw, aye.
Tony, aye. Andrew,
Andrea Rendo, aye.
Dan,
Aye.
okay, great.
Rich.
You already said that.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay, next is, this is another grant disbursement. It's a CREST grant, New York State, for paving of True. The grant got a grant disbursement agreement has been created, put in place. So basically, this means that it went through all the approvals at the state level. We just need approval for the supervisor and our attorney to sign the grant disbursement
I move that
agreement.
we authorize Supervisor Gonzalez and Attorney Falchetti to sign the grant disbursement agreement for the CREST grant for True paving.
Second,
Discussion.
So the amount of the grant and the.
$100,000.
And this is covering it fully?
It's covering the paving of True, correct, from the entrance around the circle and out to the maintenance.
Yes, so the full scope of the
The
work
full-
is being covered by the
yeah.
grant, yes.
Right,
okay,
right.
Great, thanks.
Okay,
we need to
We
go
have
on.
Well, motion second discussion, go ahead.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Okay, so next we have the bids for the salt, no, for the salt dome, for the bid removal of dirt at the salt dome. So we have from Highway. Let's use.
We have the bids come in.
$4,500 or something like that.
This is
Here it is.
Yeah, the bid
Okay.
came in.
So the bids came in, and the recommendation or the request from John Winter, our superintendent of highways, is to accept and award the bid to K&K Land Services. Who were the low bidder, and the bids, so in the bid, their bid amount is 34,500. The bids ran as high as 326,940.
What's the scope of this again?
This is a removal of 2,000 yards of dirt from the salt dome area.
And when we did, and this is 30, how much is it? 40?
It's 34,500. So they have a budget line for
I was
this.
gonna say, it's in the
Yeah.
budget, right?
I just remember, I'm just thinking back, didn't we spend like 50 something thousand a couple of years back, which was a broader scope than this?
I think that's for remove, that was,
was
yeah, we
tree.
did, I think it was tree debris. Yeah, it was like
Tree debris.
50,000,
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
yeah. But the dirt pile, I don't think we removed any, and it's gotten
Okay, so move.
big. Yeah.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, last is, actually two more.
Can we roll call that?
Oh, sorry. Roll call, sorry, Greg. Rich.
Aye.
Mary Shaw, I
Aye.
Andrea Rendo, aye.
Dan Welsh, aye.
don't forget the flag.
Yes. Okay, so next we have appointment of Inez Hemmerjicks to the pedestrian bike committee. I guess she's been vetted, right, Dan, by
Yeah, she sat in on a meeting. She's been moved into town a couple of years ago and is previously of Belgium. So she brought some pretty fun, interesting ideas and excitement to the committee. It sounds like a good addition. She's a young family, wants to see these things happen. So we're very much interested in having her join.
Excellent. Okay, so I motion that we approve, that we appoint Inez Hemmerjick to the pedestrian bike committee.
All right,
Hemmerjick. Do I have a second?
second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have the fundraiser at the town park for KL Septo.
So moved.
Lewisboro.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And then we have an add-on, which I did send to the board
Did
as
we do
well
this
next
already?
week.
The resolution, the maintenance worker,
Yeah, we did.
that was,
Yeah.
that we talked about.
That's the one, yeah. So next is Thrive. I think Mary said you were going to talk about that.
Yeah, Thrive is the drug use prevention and mental health wellness and awareness program. That is it's an alliance with Bedford, Lewisboro, and Pound Ridge. And historically, Bedford has contributed 22,000. We've contributed 6,000, and Pound Ridge has contributed 12,000. And in 2023, we had 4 events, and they were able to talk one of the foundations into reducing their costs from 5,000 to 3,500. And they were able to get a contribution from the PTO and the administration. So it did not cost Thrive as much. And so that 4 events, the first one was a 3-day event, and it was originally scheduled to 2. So we got a really great deal for that, and that's totaled $6,437.38 for the 4 events, multi-day events, and they happened at one of them happened at here in Lewisboro at John Jay High School, or 2 of them did.
Do you want me to share this or we will post it afterwards?
We can post it afterwards because we want to
Okay.
get straight to public comment.
Okay.
And the gist of it is that we got basically $8,500 worth of service from Thrive last year, and we only contributed $6,000. And this year, we are hoping to have a consultant write a grant for Thrive. And Andres Castillo at Bedford found this person, and it would be, they are willing to, they are already paying $4,000 for Bedford. And I think Cambridge is paying 1,000 and they've asked that we pay 1,000. So the grant that they're looking at would be $120,000 over several years. So I strongly recommend that we contribute $1,000 towards this alliance to fund the consultant to apply for this grant.
And again, just to reiterate, the grant amount is 125,000
For over, I think, how many?
annually for 5
For
years.
5 years. Which would be great because they have a part-time coordinator right now. Well, they're looking for one. Then that would be, our cost of that would be $10,000 if they find someone. So
With
it
this
would be
grant-
money well spent. And one of the events was also for the parents at John Jay High School. So they're really making a concerted effort to serve our community well. And we're getting a great deal.
So if they are successful in getting this grant, we don't have to pay into the program for 5 years. It'll cover.
That's the impression I got.
Yeah. Okay. And currently we're paying $6,000 a year.
And we're still getting a deal.
Right, because they spent, to go over the numbers you were going to share, and they spent in 2024.
They budgeted for 2024.
Oh, sorry.
They haven't spent it yet
Okay.
because it's only February
Mary, did you move?
13th. I
Okay.
moved that
I'll
we.
second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, good. So we're gonna go back to this is under old business, and there was a clerical error when we advertised, put the notice in the paper for the borrowing resolution for the dump truck, so it had to be
Renoticed.
renoticed. So this is just a readoption of that same resolution.
It's because the newspaper died.
No,
This was
it's
a-
because the estoppel went in and not the
Yes.
notice of adoption.
I'm sorry.
Just a clerical error.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so move.
She.
I'll
moved.
move.
And I second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Roll call
I think we
vote.
have to
roll
roll call this one.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Aye.
Mary Shaw, aye.
Tony, aye.
Enter Rando, aye.
Can't vote shy.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now public comment. Anybody here in the audience would like to speak?
Hi, Daniela Goldman, Vista resident. I'm once again here bringing to your attention a matter of great concern regarding Dan Welsh, specifically his refusal to censor himself. Last week, he even chose to post more infactual information again about the Middle East, and then allowed a woman with extremely anti-Semitic remarks to harass and bully local town members. Here are some quotes from his friend. Hamas aren't terrorists. The Zionist entity, what you call Israel, is a terrorist organization. 2, Hamas does not hide behind civilians. The Zionist entity does. Another quote, I hope my hatred of people who commit genocide is entirely obvious. No, I don't tolerate genocide, nor the people who grant themselves permission to commit it while claiming to be cloaked in religion. These are only some of the things that Dan has allowed to be spread on his page. The issue has deeply troubled many members of our community, myself included. It is alarming to witness Mr. Welsh's apparent indifference towards addressing such hateful and divisive content on his platform. One cannot help but question whether his failure to take action stems from an agreement with the views being expressed. Despite multiple requests from concerned individuals, he continues to allow such inflammatory rhetoric to be disseminated, further exacerbating tensions within our town. Furthermore, I must express my disappointment in Mr. Welsh's misplaced priorities. Instead of focusing on pressing town matters such as road maintenance, clean water, and budgetary concerns, he has chosen to prioritize discussions surrounding contentious geopolitical issues. This diversion of attention has only served to hinder progress on crucial town initiatives and foster a climate of discord and division. In light of these grave concerns, I implore the town board to take decisive action. I firmly believe that Mr. Walsh's refusal to address hateful content on his platform disqualifies him from serving in an official capacity within our town. Tony, we've had personal conversations about this, and I'm extremely extremely disappointed that you have not publicly condoned his statements, making me believe you actually might approve of his hateful speech. I urge the whole board to request Mr. Welch's resignation. It is imperative that we uphold the values of inclusivity and respect within our community, and Mr. Welch's actions are the exact opposite to these principles. I trust that the town board will take appropriate measures to address this matter promptly and ensure that our town remains a welcoming and harmonious place for all residents. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Kathy?
Thank you. Kathy Deutsch, South Salem resident. I am in total agreement with Daniela Goldman. The post that Dan most recently posted, which has accumulated over 316 comments, many of them harassing, aggressive, ugly, hateful, not in the forwarding of peace as he professes to believe so much in. Many community members have been bullied and threatened. And he has not once in the entirety of the 316 comments ever asked for civility. He has never asked for kindness. He has never censored it. He has never blocked anybody from further commenting. It is a dereliction of duty. It is a direct dereliction of ethics. It is hateful. It has divided this town. I am not here to argue whether or not he is anti-Semitic, which I believe he is, but that is not a crime. What I am here trying to forward to the board and to Tony, who I've had numerous conversations with, that this is not behavior befitting a town board member. It is disgraceful that this has been allowed to continue. And when I spoke with you, Tony, we had a long heart-to-heart conversation, and you admitted you hadn't even really read through the post. It's like, I wonder how many board members have gone onto Facebook and read what has gone on there. And I know a large majority of the residents in this town probably are not on Facebook and haven't seen it. So they do not know the severity of the ugliness that has been tossed like a tennis ball with no moderation. This is just unacceptable behavior from a sitting chairperson. I would respectfully ask that he be removed from rotation. He is not trustworthy. He is not representing his constituents and does not belong to on this board any further, but we cannot, I suppose, remove him because an elected official. But Tony, you have the authority and hopefully the leadership to say, Dan, you're out of rotation, period. You have alienated, you have abused, you have not stood up to the ethical and moral code that we expect from sitting council members. Thank you. And just for the record, we will come here, we will sit, we will write letters, we will continue, and we will waste the time of this board, which needs to be dealing with town issues, because nobody has taken a backbone and stood up for what is right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Peter.
Thank you, Peter Gross from South Salem. This evening, I speak as a Jewish resident of Lewisboro, one who has every reason to know and despise anti-Semitism, who has had at least 31 family members murdered in the Holocaust, and whose son Matthew was shot through the head in New York City by a Palestinian terrorist from Gaza. Dan Welch has voiced opposition to the policies of the Netanyahu government in the Palestinian conflict, and for that, he has been labeled an anti-Semite with no real pushback from you. I and others have been here before to say that the criticism of Israeli policies is not anti-Semitism, but you don't seem to want to acknowledge that publicly, or that public discourse and free expression and exchange of ideas are healthy. A group of Jewish citizens in Lewisboro demands Dan's resignation and that you take action against him for his views on a significant issue of world politics. You may think that the question is whether you support the Jewish community of Lewisboro. As a Jewish citizen who cares deeply about Jewish identity and values, I need to tell you that if you think that, you're wrong. Let me make it clear. I don't challenge the sincerity of their feelings or that they're well organized, but They are simply not the voice of the Jewish community of Lewisboro. If you think the board should reflect the diverse views of Lewisboro, you need to recognize that. I'm sure some agree with them, but they certainly don't speak for me, or for that matter, for most of the Jewish people I know in Lewisboro, who share my view that their intolerance and vitriol are an embarrassment and an insult to Judaism. Shutting down a voice like Dan's rather than engaging in intelligent dialogue and promoting the values of free speech is about as un-Jewish a governance attitude as we can imagine. Some Jews I know in Lewisboro support Israel's actions. Some don't. Some did, but don't anymore. But what most agree on is that Dan does not deserve to be treated like this by them or by you. And you can stop it. Make clear that because if you care about the free speech of the entire community of Lewisboro, including the entire Jewish community, not just a group of loud voices, make it clear that you will not be taking any further action against Dan. The demanding voices you hear attempting to dominate these meetings week after week are fomenting, perpetuating divisiveness in Lewisboro, even as they complain about divisiveness, and your silence feeds and enables it. Andrea, Rick, Mary, and Tony, you do not support the Lewisboro Jewish community by being critical of Dan or non-committal on this issue. For many of us, it's the exact opposite, and we are not impressed. Your continuing deference to the claims of these toxic voices is an insult to our Jewish values and an abdication of your responsibilities. Make it clear you're not going to attempt further punishment of your colleague Dan Welsh expressing his view. It's time to move on.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else here would like to speak on Zoom?
Yes. I'm asking Michael Hirsch to unmute, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Michael Hirsch, Golden's Bridge. I'm not going to address any of the ridiculousness that was just said by the last speaker. He clearly hasn't read the last post. It's unfortunate that we have to be here at a town board meeting to speak about events that are happening 8,000 miles away. But we have to because of the scenario that Dan Welsh has created. Let me be clear. I'm not here to infringe upon his rights for free speech as an American citizen. Dan can say whatever he wants as a citizen. However, much I might disagree with it, and it's some of the things that have been posted on his thread, for lack of a better term, have been disgusting, misguided, inaccurate, wrong. However, in his capacity as a board member, he does have a different responsibility, and he had the opportunity to disavow hateful speech that he created the forum to be put forward. The calling for the destruction of the state of Israel, which is what was done, which is home to 7 million Jews. That's the death of 7 million Jews. By the way, when you destroy the state of Israel, is 1 million more than were killed in the Holocaust. And I had 100 family members killed in the Holocaust. I'm asking the board not to remove him from office, but I am asking the board to censure Dan for his inability to address the issues that have been brought into a forum that he created. He was asked time and time again to disavow these comments, to moderate the language that was being used on his page, and he ignored every one of these comments. There are 317 comments on his latest thread, the majority of them very anti-Semitic. And he did absolutely nothing. He has lost the trust of a huge amount of people in this community and no longer has the ability to serve them properly. However, he is an elected official, that was stated before, but the board does have the ability to publicly disavow those comments. And I encourage everybody to go read those disgusting things that were said on his page, because it's shocking that an elected member of this community would allow such things to take place. He should be censured. The board should publicly, and in their capacity as a board, disavow everything that he said. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. Next, I'm asking Simone O'Connor to unmute.
Councilman Welsh, I read you stated in a FOIL letter, silence is not an option, and I strongly agree, but of course for different reasons. Freedom of speech is not something to be taken lightly. However, in the same breath, it is not something to be used as a defense to hate speech, most especially as a public representative. You are a councilman in Lewisboro, where you had 16 years to do something about the poisonous drinking water in Oakridge, or perhaps address potholes and budgetary concerns, but not the Middle Eastern issues. You are not a delegate to the Middle East. I don't know if that comes as a surprise. And you need to remember you represent and report to the residents of Lewisboro. You've been asked to stop spewing hatred towards the Jewish community. You continue. While defending the people of Gaza, you never once stated in your righteous anti-war, calling for a ceasefire, that at a minimum, Hamas needs to surrender the 136 remaining Israeli hostages and lay down their arms. Then you might get the ceasefire you say you want. Instead, you continue to hurt and divide the people of our town. We stand together, Jew and non-Jew, against your hate. You say you're a peace activist, but why doesn't the relentless persecution of Christians in China, Africa, and the Middle East warrant your attention? What about China's persecution of the Uyghur, a Muslim sect, where they have left 500,000 dead, others in concentration camps, and others in slave labor? How has silence been an option with those continued horrors? Israel gets attacked, and all of a sudden you find your voice as a peace activist, and it will not be silenced. You don't have an issue with the rape of women, which happened to Israeli women and is most likely still happening. Yes, silence was an option there too, but they were Jewish. So I like to remind you, while the world watched October 7th unfold in horror, only 2 days later in a taped polling of the board, your concern was for the electricity that was missing now in Gaza. I think without the excuse of freedom of speech, every board member needs to publicly condemn Dan Welsh, the councilman, and his hateful comments against our Jewish community. It's time. Tony, you keeping Dan in the mix for deputy supervisor speaks volumes. So perhaps you can clear up where you stand as a leader. Silence was what people did, allowing Jews to be marched to the death camps, and it is not and will never be an option. We will not stop. Do something. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Simone. Next, I'm asking Rhea. Rhea, if you could state your last name.
Yes, hi, I'm Rhea Horish. I emailed Tony and the other board members earlier today, and I would like to go through my email. So I've been a KLSD resident for over a decade. I grew up in the USSR in Israel. My grandparents were killed by the Nazis. I have served in the Israeli army, and I hold dual US and Israeli citizenship. So I have firsthand on-the-ground experience with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as well as racism, as someone who grew up in the Soviet bloc where anti-Semitism was a political tool. On October 7th, Hamas perpetrated an attack on Israel, resulting in the loss of over 1,200 innocent lives, including Israeli Arabs. The brutality of this assault, which included the murder of children, the rape of women, and the burning of entire families, shocked the world. In the wake of these tragic events, I was deeply disturbed to discover Dan's inflammatory remarks on his Facebook wall. Beginning on November 12th, Dan characterized Israel defense action as crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing of Palestine, employing hashtags such as Zionism is terrorism, from the river to the sea, Zionist terror, IDF terrorists, and others, to propagate a biased and deeply troubling narrative. Moreover, Dan failed to acknowledge the abduction of innocent civilians by Hamas, including women and children, 134 of which are still being held by Hamas. That's the updated number since IDF read to just a few days ago, further exacerbating the one-sided nature of his commentary. While I'm a staunch advocate for peace and justice in the Middle East, and I believe in a two-state solution, I'm also deeply critical of the current Israeli government and its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. However, the situation is still not nearly as black and white and one-sided as Dan is painting in his post. In fact, Dan does not seem to believe in two-state solution, and in his view, Israel should cease to exist, and we see those comments clearly stated on his last Facebook post. By singling out Israel for condemnation while remaining conspicuously silent on other ongoing conflicts around the world, Dan actions betray a disturbing bias that cannot be ignored. Where was Dan when Boko Haram killed an estimate of 373,000 people? Where was Dan when the Syrian civil war killed an estimate 600,000 people? Where was Dan when the conflict in Ethiopia killed an unknown number of people, with the lowest estimate being 180,000? What is it exactly that makes this particular conflict so materially worthy of attention over many other far bloodier and more gruesome conflicts? With the site being singled out for condemnation being the only home state of the Jews, it's therefore hard not to perceive his focus on this particular conflict as a thinly veiled way of weaponizing otherwise legitimate pacifist views to be deployed as a way of inciting, promoting, justifying, and legitimizing anti-Semitic views and action. For avoidance of doubt, it's entirely possible to strongly criticize Israel, its actions, and its leaders without being anti-Semitic, when such criticism is presented in a way that is factual, proportional, and within appropriate context. That is simply not the situation in this case. Given the blatant bias and anti-Semitism in Dow's Facebook post, appointing him as a deputy supervisor as part of the position rotation will not benefit the people of Lewisboro. Instead, it's likely to foster division within the community and intensify feeling of fear and exclusion among the Lewisboro Jewish population.
Rhea, your 3 minutes are up, sorry.
Thank you, Raya. Thank you. Next, Martha Goodman. I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, a couple things. I had a question which I'm not sure was answered about the solar panels on the, oh, no, not that. Sorry, the paving at Onatru. I believe that money was for repaving of already paved areas, and you weren't talking about repaving or paving over the parking lot. So I just had concern about that. The other thing is the town park water filtration system. I believe that would qualify as a public water system. And if it does, you need to test for PFAS and remediate. So that should be brought up with the person doing your study. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Mhm.
Thank you, Martha. Next, I'm asking Mike Gordon to unmute.
Hello, thank you. And I am a South Salem resident. And I just wanted to speak on these continuing attacks on Dan. And I really believe that they've become an incredible distraction from the board's essential work. I'd like to clarify personally, as a Jew, this group does not represent me. In fact, if we're looking at anti-Semitic material, the most horrific stuff that I've seen has actually been on the website of the petition. So it feels divisive, but I understand, look, meeting after meeting, we hear the same things from the same people, and including me. Several weeks ago, I spoke of Judaism as a place where we protect free speech. We reasonable discussion and the rights and lives of vulnerable people. I spoke to those attacking Dan's goodwill, saying that I personally know of his goodwill, while I certainly understand your feelings. Now, somebody in the audience at that moment spoke up and said, no, you don't. And in fact, she's right. I don't. My fear of anti-Semitism is different from hers, and it's different from others. And so I think that it's time to put this forum to bed and open up a new one. Let's start talking about our real fears and concerns and about what we're going to do about it. Let's do that as a community, and let's do that without personal attacks. So I call on the board to set up a professionally facilitated meeting that effectively engages those who care. In parallel, please make it clear that the board will take no action against any member, and let's adopt that resolution via a roll call vote. It's time to move on. It's time to respect your own time, and it's time to offer your own work for the town the respect that that work deserves. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute. Carol Cernak. Carol, can you hear me?
Maybe she
Well,
can come back.
One last time, Carol, I'm asking you to unmute. Okay. And that's it.
That's it? Okay. So. I think we covered everything. Okay, so next we have approval.
We didn't do the old business of the truck.
Yes,
We did.
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So approval of claims. I'd like to motion approval of claims. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, polling of the board. I'll start with Rich.
Just just in the public comment, if you're gonna alter that, Tony, just please give notice such, that you're gonna change it, especially, after they have a snowstorm, people making arrangements to be here and forcing people to sit through a meeting. It's fine if you want to do it in under certain circumstances, like we had a full agenda, just give people a reasonable heads up so they can plan accordingly, including just coming in for the last one. I appreciate the value of when we have these presentations, but NYSEG and the engineer, but to the extent you're going to schedule them, I would ask that you maybe screen them a little bit for content to make sure that they're clear to the audience, namely the people in town. If if NYSEG or whoever representative is using language that's part of what they do on a day-to-day basis, it makes it more difficult for the people to understand, just to make it more citizen friendly as a word. There's important information to impart, there's important information for NYSEG to communicate. Just keep in mind the audience that they're speaking on behalf of, and to the extent you can take a look at that and kind of focus that would be appreciated. Yeah, just on the ongoing issue with Dan, and I appreciate what Peter said. I just because I've heard, listen to what you said and taking to what you said. It's not directed specifically to you. It's not the free speech component. It's non-issue. Doing anything on this is a non-issue, but the focus here, and I put this in a post in response to Dan, just part of it. Your ongoing comments in this area of what you've been talking about has undisputedly made people uncomfortable, anxious, and even feel unsafe. There's a direct cause and effect here because people have told you over and over again. Your callous disregard for so many is worrisome and disturbing. So please, Dan, just stop. I'm asking Dan to stop. There's no doubt that a couple things. We all represent the people of Lewisboro. It's hurting people who live in this town. They've expressed that time and time again. And the most important part, it has nothing to do with discharging our responsibilities as representatives of the town, elected representatives of the town. In fact, dialogue is getting in the way of it, as everybody has acknowledged. And the way to address it very simply is to please stop and put it aside. If it's that important to you, then you've got to understand its impact upon the job that you're trying to do. So you kind of have to make a little bit of a choice. And I hope to make the choice that, okay, it's been a number of months, I've articulated my point, but as a representative, duly elected representative of this town, it's being distracting in what I'm trying to do. Me, Dan Welsh, is a longtime elected representative of this community, and I want to be able to focus on what I'm doing for the people in this town and not my views as much as he's entitled to express them in the exercise of his free speech, which I support. And whether they're right or they're wrong, it's getting in the way. And I ask them, just please stop, because it's getting in the way of you doing your job and all of us doing our job. Thank you.
Mary.
First of all, I want to thank the highway department for clearing the roads as beautifully as they did today. And I also want to thank my husband for the pre-Valentine's date we had this evening, clearing our own driveway together. As far as
Snow in a heart shape.
no. As far as Dan and his comments go, I have to say I'm profoundly disturbed by the impact of what he has posted and allowed to be posted on his page. I support the right to free speech, but I do not support hate speech. And you have to look at the impact of what the words have had on people. And I would respectfully again request that you please stop. If someone disagrees with you about the political situation, it doesn't mean that they're for the death of people from gossip. It just means that they just disagree with you. You can be pro-peace and still want all of it to end, but your priority should be the town.
Thanks. Andrew.
Going back to Oakridge. Tony, I've been talking to you about bringing in sustainability partners since probably February, March of my first term, and now we're at the same chart at the beginning of my third year of my first term in office, and we still haven't met with sustainability partners and the representatives from Oakridge and the water. Now, it's only an idea, but it's something that could possibly help solve a lot of the issues and the different points of view. It might be a solution. Is it the solution? I don't know. But, after going on 3 years, I'd really like to sit down and have a conversation with the representatives from the Oakridge Water Committee and sustainability partners to see if they could help make this situation better. I have to, I say again and again, people always ask, oh, what's going on with Tony and the grants? I have to tell everybody, there's no criticism that I have of the supervisor and the efforts that he makes in going out and getting grants. I don't think I've encountered a supervisor who has, in fact, gone out and tried to get grants as much as Tony has. So I said it there, but that, he's solving a lot of problems, but there's still more good that could be done. And I think that there may be a better way to help manage all the issues at Oakridge with the water district and the sewer districts. I'm just asking pretty please.
Okay.
Can we bring them in and have a meeting? So that's one. Two, here we are again. Everyone is commenting tonight on Dan and his comments on Facebook and the posts that appear there. Over the past several years, we've heard a lot within the town, within the state, within the country about being respectful of other people's feelings, how others want to be addressed and how they feel when they're not addressed the way that they wish to be, about not using certain words and language because they're offensive and make people feel unsafe. These have become normal things that we've been discussing, and pretty much everyone on this town board has been an advocate in respecting other people's feelings and what makes them feel unsafe. But for some reason, in this particular circumstance, you're failing to be respectful of a number of residents who have come forward, who've indicated that they feel what's going on in your Facebook page makes them feel unsafe in their own community. Regardless of what you say that your intent on posting these comments are, those comments give rise to anti-Semitic feelings and rhetoric. And it's growing and growing and growing, not only in town, but across the state, across the nation. So your residents are asking you to stop because what you're doing is making them feel unsafe. And in light of everything that this community has gone through over the past several years, I'm joining in and asking you to please stop again. That being said, a number of people have reached out and asked where the ethics committee for the town of Lewisboro has a place here. Now, I've also indicated that I feel that we should refer the matter to the ethics committee, if for nothing else other than for them to indicate to the public that it may not be a topic that they deal with, because it's very limited the issues that they do deal with. But I am going to make a motion that we refer it and at least allow them to consider it and at least put to rest any feelings one way or the other as to whether it's a topic that they do in fact address. And then the community can respond and what they'd like to see after that.
Dan?
Well, it's a motion.
I'm sorry?
I made a motion
Oh, all right, sorry.
to
I missed that.
refer the matter to the ethics committee. And I don't know if anybody else wants to second.
I thought that was an executive session, but
Well, in light of everything that's come up, I felt it was necessary to bring it up at this point.
right.
Well, is that, Greg, is that a executive session motion or one for here?
Any motion would be in the public session, but I think the board's made myself very clear about where my role is on this because you're all clients.
Right.
So I would just say any motion's got to be done in the public session, one way or another, when it's made, if it's going to be made. Okay?
Right, but the discussion.
Before, but the motion's got to be made in the public session before.
So we have an executive session tonight, so let's take it up in executive session, then the motion that comes out of it becomes public.
Well,
That's fine.
Yeah.
yeah, well, then I'm just, if I can speak down, Matt, right, I'm out of turn, sorry.
Well, it was just my,
Yeah, no,
it was my opportunity. If we would like to motion to table my motion until after executive session, so we've had time to discuss it under the purview of personnel, that's fine, as long as my motion's addressed, whether it passes or fails before the NCE.
well, my motion will be to table it till the next meeting. I want to give Dan an opportunity to process what we said, and she should have the opportunity in the next 2 weeks, that's my view, and the next meeting, I'm going to second the motion if necessary.
Right, so let's take it up in executive session, we'll have that discussion.
All right, so first, just the business, we had a good session with the steering committee, the master plan steering committee last night, and Andrew was there, and we went through another batch of zoning code updates. And I think it was a good session. There's a lot of important stuff in there, so you'll be seeing that pretty soon.
It was long.
It was a long session. And
It was a lot of reading.
yeah, really long. Besides that, I'm working on trying to put together some sort of initiative around the using Ridgefield Avenue as kind of a medium for looking at traffic calming on our local roads, and concept right now is to put together like a community walk where we actually walk the road first, and then we have a session after that, and both our new highway director and the police department, Andrew Llewellyn, are on board to be a part of that meeting as well. So I hope, we'll need some better weather to put it together, but that's coming together. As far as all the incoming just now, there's a lot there, obviously. I want to start with just the fact that in the sort of 3 months that this has been going on, the folks who are criticizing me have not mentioned, yes, there's the 1,200 folks on the Israel side that perished, and lots of horrible stuff behind that, but no mention. I've never heard the word Palestinian once in probably this 3 months. No mention. We're up to getting ready to hit 30,000 people.
You're still doing the
Well,
very
I
thing that we're
I think
asking you to do.
Kathy,
you guys had your time.
It's just insane.
You had your time. Something like 12,000 children. I mean, and tens of thousands maimed children. It can go on and on. It's day after day, hundreds of people, and people being gunned down from behind. A young girl who was in a shelling, her family died, she called for help. The ambulance comes, the ambulance is shelled, everyone killed there, and then the girl finally killed. I mean, every single day, every university and college in the Gaza area has been blasted and destroyed at this point. It is endless, and so this issue is important, and of course it's uncomfortable for people. Of course it is. Why wouldn't that be uncomfortable? I'm truly concerned at this point. The war is expanding now because other countries around the region are actually fulfilling their duties under the Genocide Convention and trying to do something to stop it. So our troops are being attacked, and now they're starting to die. We have occupations in Syria and Iraq and places where they shouldn't be in the first place, but they're just sitting there as targets basically now. And these are our soldiers. They're being attacked because the United States is a full-on partner in what's going on there today. And that's just the facts, right? And so I'm concerned that there will most likely, if nothing changes, there most likely be some kind of another 9/11 that happens, right? And it will matter to all of us here. And this wasn't something I brought to the board, but it's being brought to the board every day, so I'm speaking on it. One of the board's basic duties is just the general health and welfare of the community. I think if we have another event like that, and we've lost people in the war on terror. It will all come home again. All I've done from the start is call for a ceasefire. This is supported by the majority of Americans. It's very simple. In fact, I have a resolution right here in my bag if you want, a very simple resolution condemning anti-Semitism, condemning anti-Islamic actions, and calling for a ceasefire. Very simple. Most Americans support this. That's what I'm calling for. My last posting was pointing out that the United States and some of the folks that are with them on this cut off their funding to the United Nations.
How long are you allowed to go on for?
Kathy,
This
it's
is
not public
Tony.
comment. I'm sorry. It's
I'm
not public
sorry,
comment.
Tony. I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
No,
The
please.
frustration is very high.
No.
And this is just rhetoric
I'm sorry, Kathy.
being
You're-
quoted right here in the
Right now,
meeting.
you're out of order. Let him finish. Let him talk.
This is out of order. It's not
No,
town
it's not.
business.
This is polling board. A lot of this is in town business. So this is, let him finish.
People ask why my focus on this currently. It's not, and this is, obviously I've had other focuses before on the sort of anti-war side. And why not Boko Haram? Why not the Uyghurs? Well, because we're doing this, because we're supplying the bombs, the 2,000 ton bombs. We're doing that. It's our tax money, and everyone that falls, as Eisenhower said, is on us, and is a opportunity missed, and we could be doing something else. So yeah, this wasn't a town board thing in the beginning, but these folks made it one, and they're. Excuse me. And I've taken a lot of stuff for it. People get in touch with me and say, thank you, for doing this, and recognizing that it has not been an easy road to do this. Mary, your comment about like you can be against this, but still. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see like a lot of nuance here. Either you want to stop this thing, or you're silent or don't. The folks who come here for 3 months are clearly in favor of continuing whatever's going on there. And that's their right, I guess, but this is my position. And, I think that's the important part. I would love to see this board sort of catch up with the rest of the world and actually take a moral stand on this. It has to stop. But I'll just leave it there.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, and thanks, by the way, with what you're doing in Ridgefield Avenue. I think that's the idea you proposed is a good one. So let's see what comes out of that. And that's related to the traffic cut through and the speeding and all the complaints there. The sustainability partners that Andrea mentioned, yeah, I'm open to bringing them in again. We already had Andrea and I had a discussion with some of the Oakridge folks. Of course, the concern is that it's another level of management within, between the town and the district, and somebody's got to pay for that. So, but we can certainly have that discussion. Maybe set up another meeting with Oakridge, where we bring in sustainability partners and have them present. And I think, in terms of what the discussion that's been going on here, I think maybe we should take a break. The whole social media thing doesn't help once people engage, and that's the negative effect of social media, and we're seeing that impacting. It's having a huge impact in children. The bullying. I visited, had a tour of Four Winds. They invited me over to, with a couple of other people to see the facility, and they're seeing social media as a cost to a lot of what they're seeing in terms of adolescents who come into that facility. And I could see that happening with adults too. So I think the engagement is not good. So I would recommend, we take a break from social media. And this includes, all of us. Anybody responding to a post, I pick up the phone, give a call. I've had conversations with Dan, I've had conversations with some of the residents. I think communication is key to understand where each side is coming from. And I've heard from both sides here. I've heard from my, fellow board members. I think, Mike Gordon's suggestion of a community event, that's something that's been in my mind. And Mary and I spoke about that just last week. We had a conversation about doing something.
I've been trying to suggest it for months.
Yeah. So, that's something that we'll have to figure out the best approach. It does take time. And of course, this town business that, we need to, as you saw today, was a very heavy agenda with a lot of good things that we got accomplished, and hopefully we'll continue accomplishing a lot of good things and not let these other things get in the way. So going forward, I would say, let's try to all stay away from social media. Let's have dialogue. It's okay for people to come in here and voice their opinions. That's what public comment is all about. But I think we should, maybe tee up some community initiatives that can help with some of the, I guess I'll call it healing here between everyone. So that's what I have to say on that matter. On a different matter, I almost forgot. I was invited by our county executive, George Latimer, to be his special guest at his weekly update meeting down in White Plains. So I was there yesterday. So if you want to go on Facebook, and here I am asking people to go on social media now, to go on Facebook, and you could go to the Westchester County government. And I'll post the link or send it. This is one of our email blasts. You can see the that weekly update with the county executive and my pitch of Lewisboro. So we got a lot of good things in our town. So it was an opportunity for me to market it to anyone who's watching. So that's I think that's all I had. And let's see. Actually, Martha Goodman had a question about the town park. The town park water system is not considered a public system per the Department of Health, so there is no requirement to test it for PFAS. But not a bad idea for us to do that. So thank you, Martha, for bringing that up.
Why isn't the town park a public system? Because everybody lives there.
It's a transient, I think they call it a transient water system or something, because it's not
Nobody lives there.
populated, because nobody lives there. It's bottom line.
That we know of.
Yeah, right. Same thing like Cyrus Russell House. We don't have to do any testing there. Onitru also, no PFAS testing. So
Even if you have office.
It would be a good idea, especially because it's
Yeah, I
a
think-
close proximity to the Meadow Pond area, just saying.
yeah, and we could,
Should do it.
it doesn't hurt to get it done. Yeah. So I think that's all I had right now. So
I'd like to renew my motion to move this matter involving Dan, to send it over to the Ethics Committee.
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So let's see, Paul, we did announcements. So the next town board meeting is Monday, February 26th at 7:30 PM at the townhouse here in 11 Main Street. So now motion to go into executive session to discuss some personnel matters. All in favor?
Aye.